Tonight, we're exploring the hidden connections and the secret timeline that exists between every Pokémon generation. This is a fascinating topic, but I'll keep my narration calm to ensure you can still drift off to sleep. Thank you to those of you who've been joining us consistently. If you're falling asleep with us tonight, let me know in the comments how many nights in a row you've been here. And if this is your first night, just comment night 1. Now back to the video. Imagine for a moment that you are standing on the white stone piers of Vermilion City. The salt air is thick, and the sound of the SS Anne's whistle echoes across the water. To you, in this moment, the world is small. It consists of 8 badges, a rival with a chip on his shoulder, and a quest to become the very best. But thousands of miles away, across an ocean you haven't yet mapped, a young trainer in the Hoenn region is stepping out into the tall grass of Route 101 at this exact same second. They aren't living in your future, they are living in your present. While you're battling Lieutenant Surge, they might be witnessing the awakening of ancient titans that could drown the world or burn it to a cinder. We often think of the Pokémon series as a straight line, a ladder we climbed from 1996 to the present day. We assume that because we played Blue version first and Ruby version years later, that the history of that world follows the same path. But the truth is far more intricate, far more mysterious, and deeply layered. There are gaps in time, vast stretches of years where kingdoms rose and fell, where the very fabric of reality was stitched together by creatures of myth, and where the actions of a single person in one corner of the globe sent ripples through the centuries to affect someone they would never meet. The mystery of the Pokémon timeline is one of the most compelling puzzles in all of gaming. It isn't just about which game came first, it's about the connective tissue that binds these regions together. It's about why certain ruins in Johto look exactly like ruins found in the Sinnoh region. It's about the secret history of the Great War that devastated Kalos 3,000 years ago, and how the fallout of that ancient conflict created the very mechanics of mega evolution that today. We are told stories of the darkest day in Galar, a nightmare of black clouds and giants, but we rarely stop to ask how that event aligns with the birth of the universe at the hands of Arceus. There is a hidden architecture to this world, a grand design that the games only hint at through flavor text, ancient statues, and the hushed whispers of non-player characters standing in the corners of libraries. The stakes of understanding this timeline are higher than they appear. This isn't just trivia, it is the foundation of the entire Pokémon mythos. When we understand the chronological order of these events, the motivations of the villainous teams suddenly make more sense. We begin to see Team Rocket not just as a group of thieves, but as a symptom of a world that had forgotten its connection to the divine. Team Galactic's attempt to rewrite the universe not as an isolated incident, but as a direct consequence of the power vacuum left by ancient deities. Every generation represents a chapter in a much larger book, and for years we have been reading those chapters out of order. Tonight, we're going to lay them out side by side. We're going to bridge the 3-year gap between the fall of Giovanni and the rise of Red at the peak of Mount Silver. We are going to look at the silent centuries, where the Regis were sealed away in their chambers, and ask ourselves what humanity did to earn such a terrifying imprisonment. There is a certain peace in realizing how connected this universe truly is, even in the quietest moments of the games. The sound of the wind blowing through the trees in Ecological City, or the soft glow of the mushrooms in Glimwood Tangle. There is a sense of history. Every forest has a memory. Here, every legendary Pokémon is a living anchor to a specific era of time. By tracing these threads, we can see the evolution of the world itself, from a simple land of monsters and trainers to a complex reality where space, time, and emotion are governed by forces beyond human comprehension. We will look at the way the narrative shifted from the grounded, urban struggles of Kanto to the high-concept, philosophical battles of Unova, where truth and ideals became more important than the strength of a Pokeball. As we move through the quiet hours of the night, we will peel back the layers of these hidden connections. We will explore the simultaneous journeys of trainers across different continents, the ancient disasters that reshaped the geography of the planet, and the subtle clues left behind by developers that tell a story far more ambitious than a simple quest for glory. We will find out what really happens in the shadows between the games, in the years where no player was watching, and the world continued to turn, evolve, and remember. This is the story of a world that is much older and much more connected than we were ever led to believe. It is a journey through time, through memory, and through the very heart of what it means to coexist with the extraordinary. Let us begin by looking back at the beginning, not of the games, but of the world itself, and see how the first sparks of creation set the stage for everything that was to follow. What if the very first Pokémon game you ever played wasn't the chronological starting point of this vast universe at all? Red and Blue. Those pixelated journeys through Kanto seem like the origin story, the big bang of badges and battles. But peel back the layers, and you'll find the timeline twisting in ways that defy everything we assumed from the shelf order at the store. Consider the vast ocean separating Kanto from Hoenn, that shimmering expanse where waves crash eternally under indifferent skies. While you are trekking from Pallet Town to Viridian City, collecting your starter and dreaming of the Indigo Plateau, across those same waters, another young trainer was awakening in Littleroot Town. Ruby and Sapphire weren't distant sequels. They unfolded right alongside the Kanto saga. The gym leaders in Dewford and Laveridge were earning their badges at the exact same moment Brock was polishing his rocks in Pewter. Team Aqua and Magma schemed in their submersible hideouts, while Team Rocket drilled into Cinnabar Island, both plots bubbling toward catastrophe under the same sun. This simultaneity shatters the straight line we've drawn in our minds. Fire Red and Leaf Green, the polished remakes, capture that same era, just as Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire revisit Hoenn's primal clash without shifting a single day forward. The developers layered these worlds, parallel, oceans apart but time locked together. You can almost hear the echoes, the roar of Groudon awakening syncing with the surge of Mewtwo's birth, primal forces and genetic hubris raging in harmony. Release dates tricked us from the start. 1996 brought Kanto to life, then 2001 delivered Johto's sequel Glow. By 2002, Hoenn crashed the party with its double battles and devious legendaries. Years stretched between cartridges, building this illusion of progression, one world after another, neatly stacked. But the Pokémon universe doesn't march to our calendar. It breathes in loops and overlaps, release order nothing more than a veil draped over the true flow. Games dropped like breadcrumbs, leading us down a false path, masking how Hoenn's tsunamis lapped at Kanto's shores in real-time narrative sync. Dig deeper into those in-game hints that whisper this truth. In Emerald, the credits roll with a DexNav scan, revealing distant signals from Kanto's league, faint but unmistakable. Characters in Hoenn speak of far-off champions claiming victory, tales carried on trade winds that match Red's ascent precisely. Meanwhile, Kanto's remakes nod back with updated Pokédex entries, lore entries that align the stars of Rayquaza with the birds of Kanto's skies. It's no coincidence, it's chronology concealed, a deliberate fog to heighten discovery. This illusion extends backward too, challenging any claim that Kanto marks the dawn. Millennia before Ash ever left home, or any trainer like you set foot on Route 1, shadows of history loomed large. 3,000 years prior to Gala's modern woes, the darkest day scorched the skies black, Eternatus swelling to godlike fury, dynamaxing every creature in sight. Zacian and Zamazenta, blades gleaming through the storm, felled the beast with two nameless youths at their side, forging kings from survivors' blood. Aza himself, that eternal wanderer from Kalos, bore witness across regions and eons, his grief-stricken gaze fixed on ruins that echo in Johto's Alph chambers. Fast forward just 1500 years before Kanto's gyms lit up, and the world already bore scars. Farfetch had dwindled to rarity, overhunted by forgotten hands, their leeks clutched in dwindling flocks amid environmental elegies. Ruins of Alph hummed with unowned script, Tanabe's chambers sealed against the sea, Solation's relics whispering of patterns yet unbroken. Even Kalos's laver tree sprouted roots in that shadowed interval, its branches cradling secrets that would bloom into Xerneas's light much later. These ancient threads prove the timeline never began with a professor's gift-wrapped starter. Kanto was a snapshot, not the genesis, a vibrant now amid endless before. Generation 1's simplicity, that badge-hunting heartbeat, lured us into linearity, but Hoen's parallel pulse reveals the mosaic. Adventures intertwined across divides we never crossed, stories sailing on unseen currents. Yet even this revelation leaves voids begging to be filled. What unfolded in those silent intervals? The pauses where one generation's echoes fade before the next wave rises. Up next, Chapter 2, the silent 3-year gap, where we'll uncover the whispers and wonders that bridged Kanto's triumph to Johto's awakening. Secrets that redefine everything you thought you knew about time's quiet march. While Kanto's champions rise and Hoen's oceans churn, in perfect sync across the waves, 3 years slip by, almost unnoticed, in the eastern regions. A quiet void that reshapes everything you thought you knew about the world's fragile balance. Those 3 years mark the silent gap, the uncharted stretch between your triumphs in Kanto and the windswept paths of Johto. Picture the cherry blossoms fading on the outskirts of New Barktown, the seasons turning as whispers of old heroes fade into legend. Red, the boy who toppled Team Rocket and claimed the summit of victory, vanishes into the perpetual snows of Mount Silver. No fanfare, no parades, just a lone silhouette against jagged peaks, training in isolation, his Pokémon growing ever stronger in the hush of high altitude. This disappearance isn't mere retirement, it's the catalyst for a shifting world power dynamic, a vacuum where old guardians step back and new shadows creep forward. With Red gone, the Pokémon League in Kanto feels the ripple. Lance, the Dragon Master, turns his gaze westward to Johto, assuming the role of its champion while the region's gym leaders settle into their posts. Elm's lab in New Bark hums with fresh purpose, handing a Pokédex to a new trainer. You, perhaps, stepping off the boat from Kanto with memory still sharp. But the world has moved. Team Rocket, shattered once, licks its wounds in the shadows of the radio tower, their ambitions reignited by a power-hungry executive named Archer. The air carries a tension, thicker now, as if Red's absence has loosened the threads holding chaos at bay. This transition from the Kanto era to the Johto and Sinnoh period unfolds not in grand announcements, but in subtle echoes across the sea. Johto's story, set explicitly 3 years after Kanto's fall of Giovanni, bleeds into Sinnoh's frozen mythos in ways that bind the timelines like roots under soil. Take Jasmine, the steel-type gym leader of Olivine City. In Gold and Silver, you find her absent from her gym, racing to a distant land for medicine to thaw a ship trapped in ice during a sudden outbreak. She speaks of a professor who helped her voice laced with gratitude amid the urgency. Fast forward to Diamond and Pearl, and Cynthia, Sinnoh's champion, recalls that very moment, how Olivine City's leader sought aid from her region's experts, pulling Jasmine through the blizzards to save her sailors. That connection isn't coincidence, it's evidence linking the events of Gold and Silver directly to the climax of Diamond and Pearl. As you climb the slopes of Mount Coronet in Sinnoh, confronting Cyrus and his quest to unmake the world with Dialga or Palkia, Jasmine's journey underscores the interconnected fragility. The medicine she carried back to Johto, It stabilized a crisis that mirrored Sinnoh's own upheavals, where time and space themselves threatened to unravel. Cynthia's poise, her knowledge of ancient lore, stems from these shared burdens, helping assist a gym leader while the creation trio looms on the horizon. Johto's 3-year mark aligns so closely with Sinnoh's turmoil that scholars debate if they overlap entirely. The chill winds from Mount Silver, carrying omens to the northern peaks. Red's retreat amplifies it all. By isolating himself, he cedes the spotlight, allowing Lance to bridge Kanto and Johto, while Sinnoh's professors, like Rowan, delve deeper into the world's origins. The power dynamic tilts, local leagues strengthen, but global threats like Team Rocket's resurgence hint at fractures. Ho-Oh's rainbow feathers glimpse over Ecological dance theatre, promising rebirth, yet Lugia's roar from the Whirl Islands warns of imbalance. These legendaries, guardians of elemental harmony, stir precisely because Red's shadow no longer blankets the land. In Johto, you mend the burned tower's scars, coaxing the beasts back to vigilance, all while Sinnoh's distortion world pulses with Giratina's exile, a parallel chaos born from the same era's unrest. Breathe in the mist rising from the Tin Tower, feel the weight of bells tolling for lost souls. This gap reveals Pokemon's lore as a tapestry, not a straight line. Kanto's victory sows Johto's trials, which in turn feeds Sinnoh's cosmic stakes. Red's silence on Mount Silver echoes in every unscaled peak, every unanswered Pokegear call, urging new heroes to fill the void. As the 3 years pass like a held breath, and when it releases, the world feels vast, alive with unseen currents pulling regions together. As these threads tighten, we edge toward even older shadows, cataclysms buried millennia deep. In the next chapter, The Darkest Day and the Ancient Kings, uncover how a storm of endless night forged Galar's throne and rippled through every timeline. Stay with me, because what those kings sealed away could shatter it all anew. As those pivotal moments in Johto and Sinnoh unfolded just a few years after Kanto's triumphs, they marked turning points in the Pokemon world we know. But rewind the clock far beyond those eras, and you'll find a shadow that engulfed an entire region in despair. A shadow so profound it threatened to erase humanity from Galar forever. 3,000 years before the Sword and Shield heroes rose to challenge their own Dynamax threats, the skies over Galar cracked open with something unimaginable. A colossal black storm descended, born from the unchecked power of Eternatus in its Eternamax form. This wasn't just a tempest, it was a rift in reality itself, spewing infinite energy that warped the land. Pokemon across the region began to swell to impossible sizes, Dynamaxing and even Gigantamaxing without control. Forests trembled as ancient beasts rampaged, cities crumbled under the feet of titans that once roamed peacefully, and rivers boiled from the heat of colossal flames exhaled by overgrown Charizards and their kin. The air thickened with a choking darkness, blotting out the sun, while the ground split open, unleashing geysers of raw power that turned fertile fields into wastelands. Villages vanished in seconds, swallowed by the chaos of Pokemon driven mad by the storm's corrupting surge. Humanity teetered on extinction, huddled in the ruins, whispering prayers to forgotten legends as the storm promised to consume everything. In the heart of this apocalypse, two legendary wolves emerged from the mists of myth, Zacian and Zamazenta. These weren't mere guardians, they were the embodiment of Galar's unbreakable will, forged in the fires of some primordial conflict. Zacian, the radiant sword-wielding wolf, gleamed with a fierce, unyielding light, her blade form slicing through the storm's tendrils like paper. Zamazenta, the armoured shield-bearer, stood as an immovable bastion, her rusted iron form absorbing the onslaught of rampaging giants. But they didn't act alone. Two human youths, brave beyond their years, one wielding the sword's power, the other the shield's defence, stood with them. Together, they pierced the storm's core, clashing against Eternatus in a battle that shook the British-inspired hills of Galar. The clash echoed for days, a symphony of roars and steel, until the beast was subdued, its energy sealed away in the depths of what would become Hammerlock Stadium. The black clouds parted at last, revealing a scarred but surviving world. That secret role of Zacian and Zamazenta went far beyond stopping the storm. They preserved the human race itself. Without their intervention, guided by those two youths, Galar's people would have been trampled into oblivion by the endless horde of colossal Pokémon. Legends whisper that the wolves chose these humans not by chance, but because they carried the spark of resilience needed to wield such power. Zacian's blade represented the offensive fury required to cut through despair, while Zamazenta's shield embodied the defensive resolve to protect what remained. In the aftermath, as the land healed, these legends became more than symbols. They infused humanity with a covenant. The wolves slumbered in sacred sites, the slumbering Weald and the crowned tundra, awakening only when that same darkness stirred again millennia later. Their pact ensured survival, embedding a legacy where humans and Pokémon forged alliances not out of convenience, but necessity born from near annihilation. From those ashes rose the ancient kings, the two youths crowned in a ceremony that reshaped Galar's destiny. They weren't just saviors, they became the architects of stability. One king, the sword in hand, ruled from Winden, establishing the traditions of strength and conquest that echoed through gym challenges and champion battles. The other, shield raised high, governed from a fortified heartland, fortifying borders and councils that prevented future fractures. Their crowning established the modern political structure of Pokémon regions, not just Galar's, but a blueprint rippling outward. Think of it. The dual monarchy inspired the balanced governance seen in Unova's ideals versus truths, Kalas's monarchy tinged with ancient war, even the league systems in Kanto and Johto, where power is checked by communal trials. These kings divided the land into stadiums and wild areas, creating zones where Dynamax energy could be harnessed safely, birthing the league format that defines trainer society today. Their reign wove human ambition with Pokémon might, ensuring no single force could dominate unchecked. A structure so enduring it influences every region, from Alola's Kahunas to Paldea's Elite Four. Yet whispers persist that this era's echoes lingered far longer than history books admit. Ruins dotting Galar, like the Dusty Bowl's craters or the Giant's Mirror, bear scars from that day, silent testaments to giants felled. A Z, the enigmatic wanderer from Kalos, claims to have witnessed fragments of it all, his immortality cursed by a weapon of his own making. Those kings' legacy didn't fade. It set the stage for conflicts that would test the world anew. And as we trace these threads back even further, the shadow of AZ and the ultimate weapon looms large, a weapon that could unravel everything those kings fought to save. In the next chapter, we'll uncover how one man's grief forged a doomsday device tied directly to this ancient cataclysm. Stick around, because its secrets will change how you see the entire timeline. Among those who bore witness to the darkest days' endless black skies over Galar stood a solitary figure, a king stripped of his throne by time itself. This man, AZ, had already endured horrors that would shatter lesser souls, his life stretching across 3,000 years of relentless wandering. Born into the opulent courts of ancient Kalos, he ruled as a visionary monarch during an era when war consumed the land like a ravenous flame. Picture the fields of Kalos 3,000 years before the champions of Lumiose City claimed their badges. Two mighty kingdoms clashed in a conflict so brutal it threatened to erase civilization from the region forever. Armies of thousands marched under banners soaked in blood, their Pokémon locked in savage battles that left craters where meadows once bloomed and rivers choked with the fallen. A Z, at the height of his power, watched his forces dwindle, his strategies crumbling against an enemy that seemed forged from shadow itself. The air hung heavy with the cries of the wounded, the metallic tang of spilled life mingling with the smoke of burning villages. In the midst of this apocalypse, tragedy pierced his heart like a lance. His beloved Floette, a gentle Pokémon that fluttered at his side through every council and charge, fell lifeless amid the chaos, struck down while shielding a fallen soldier. Grief twisted AZ into something eternal. Refusing the finality of death, he poured his kingdom's genius into a colossal machine, the ultimate weapon. A towering spire of brass and crystal that hummed with stolen vitality. To fuel it, he harvested the life force from countless Pokémon, siphoning their essence into glowing orbs that pulsed like captured stars. The weapon wasn't merely a cannon, it was a desperate bid to rewrite mortality, designed first to revive his Floette, then to end the war that took her. When the machine fired, a blinding beam erupted skyward, vaporizing both armies in an instant. Their forms dissolving into light as the earth trembled and the heavens wept ash. Kalos fell silent, its scars hidden beneath new growth, but victory tasted like poison. In that cataclysmic release, something profound stirred within the world's hidden veins. The ultimate weapon's energy, a torrent of pure life mingled with the sorrow of the lost, seeped deep into Kalos's soil and stones. This infusion birthed mega evolution, the phenomenon that would one day allow trainers to unlock boundless potential in their partners. Megastones, those glittering relics scattered across regions, crystallized from the weapon's fallout. Each one a frozen echo of Pokémon vitality, amplified beyond nature's limits. Lysandra, the modern visionary of Team Flare, would later uncover fragments of AZ's design, twisting them toward his own apocalyptic dreams, proving the weapon's legacy endured like a buried thorn. Aziz's miracle came at dawn's first light. His Floette returned, revived by the machine's power, its wings shimmering with ethereal glow. Yet purity recoiled from corruption. The little Pokémon, sensing the countless lives sacrificed, fled from him in horror, vanishing into the wilds. Immortality claimed AZ instead, his body sustained by the weapon's core, dooming him to wander eternally. 3,000 years he roamed, from the storm-ravaged plains of Galar during the darkest day to the shadowed ruins of Yoto's towers, his grief a shadow that lengthened with every era. He watched civilizations rise and crumble, Pokémon evolve in forms touched by his unintended gift. Yet isolation gnawed at him, his machine a hollow companion. That grief rippled outward, etching AZ's torment into the timeline of generations yet unborn. In Kanto and Hoenn's simultaneous struggles, whispers of ancient wars fueled Team Rocket's ambitions and Team Aqua's primal reveries. Yoto's return 3 years later carried echoes of lost kings in the tales of the Kimono girls, while Sinnoh's creation, myths intertwined with Kalos's life-draining folly through the distortion world's warped reflections. Even Unova's ideals of truth and resolve bore the weight of a man who chased resurrection at any cost, his story a cautionary thread, warning against tampering with life's fragile weave. Azid's presence lingered in the game's undercurrents, a ghost challenging players in Kalos, his machine looming as the final trial, forcing us to confront the price of power. As we trace these echoes further, the stones and structures left by those early visionaries begin to whisper secrets of their own. In the next chapter, the architecture of the ancients will uncover ruins that bridge millennia, holding clues to Pokémon origins you never suspected. Stay with me as the past literally takes shape. While Az endured his endless exile, carrying the weight of a war that reshaped Kalos and birthed mega evolution from catastrophe, the Pokémon world held even deeper secrets etched into stone. Monuments raised not in the heat of battle, but in quiet reverence, 1,500 years before the first Pokéball ever captured a companion. These weren't scattered relics of forgotten tribes. Across oceans and regions that would one day host champions, ancient builders synchronized their efforts with uncanny precision. In the shadowed valleys of Yoto, the ruins of Alf emerged from the earth. Chambers puzzle-like and interlocking, as if designed to whisper puzzles to those clever enough to listen. Far to the south, in the watery depths off Hoen's southern shores, the Tanabe ruins took shape beneath the waves. 7 chambers mirroring the unknown's forms, aligned to catch the sun's fleeting rays through crystal-clear currents. And in Sinnoh's rolling plains, the Solacean ruins delved underground, their walls alive with inscriptions that seemed to pulse with forgotten intent. What drove this harmony? Builders who never met, separated by vast seas and rugged terrain, yet their hands carved in unison. Stone by stone, they hauled megaliths under starlit skies, aligning chambers to solstices and equinoxes, as if attuned to a cosmic rhythm older than memory. You can almost hear the rhythmic thud of hammers on granite, the murmur of chants carrying across the winds, binding Johto's misty hills to Hoen's coral embrace and Sinnoh's windswept fields. These weren't hasty shelters or tombs for kings. They were temples, observatories, libraries in rock, crafted at the exact same moment in history, 1500 years before Kanto's gyms rose and trainers first dreamed of mastery. At the heart of this mystery swirl the unknown. These ethereal Pokémon, shaped like ancient letters, drift through the ruins of Alf like living script from a lost alphabet. 28 forms in all, from A to Z and beyond, twisting in the dim glow of chamber lights. Touch the walls, and they appear, emerging from cracks, their bodies shimmering like ink on wet parchment. But why here? Why then? Legends whisper. They mark the dawn of civilization itself. Before alphabets bound thoughts to paper, before words tamed the wild chaos of the mind, the unknown embodied language's birth. They weren't tools or beasts to command. They were the very essence of communication, floating guardians of meaning. Imagine standing in Alf's deepest chamber, the air thick with damp earth and the faint hum of psychic energy. An unknown drifts close, its eye locking onto yours, forming a single glyph that shifts, questioning, revealing, hiding. Inscriptions around you spell riddles, puzzles that summon them in droves, swirling in hypnotic patterns. Yoto's sages claim the unknown arrived, with humanity's first spark of sentience, teaching primitives to name the world. Without form, they have no meaning. One ancient text reads, carved in their own script. Yet in Tanobe's submerged halls, identical symbols glow underwater, drawing schools of Pokémon to dance in synchronized schools. Solacean's depths echo the same, fossils of unknown embedded in walls, suggesting they seeded knowledge across continents. This raises the profound question: why did ancient humans build monuments to Pokémon 1500 years before the first Pokéball? No capture devices existed, no spheres of steel and ether to bind allies. Yet these ruins honor Pokémon forms explicitly. Alf's chambers mimic unknown swarms. Tanobe's 7 towers replicate legendary sea beasts, their shadows playing on walls like eternal guardians. Solacean's pits cradle fossils of ancient life, altars to creatures long extinct. These weren't warnings or traps. They were tributes, poured from devotion deeper than ownership. Perhaps in that era, humans and Pokémon weren't trainer and captive, but partners in symbiosis. You sense it in the precision of the builds. The way Alf's sliding puzzles reveal hidden rooms only when solved in harmony. As if inviting Pokémon to collaborate, builders left offerings, berries calcified in stone, feathers fused to floors, scales embedded like jewels. Farfetched, that humble bird with its leek, suffered overhunting then, their populations crashing as humans turned to sustenance over reverence. Yet the ruins persist, eternal nods to a bond unmarred by conquest. Scholars debate the methods. How did word travel without writing? Psychic networks, perhaps, relayed through Abra lines, or the unknown themselves, beaming blueprints mind to mind. Or migratory Pokémon carried the call, Pidgeot soaring with etched slates, Lapras ferrying masons across waves. The synchronization defies logic unless guided by something greater. A shared prophecy, a divine directive from Arceus's gaze, or the unknown scripting humanity's first collective dream. Enter the ruins today, and the air feels charged, timeless. Moss clings to Alf's arches, water drips into Nobi's flooded crypts, dust motes dance in Solacian's beams. Solve a puzzle, and unknown emerge, their forms spelling truths. Who shapes whom, they seem to ask. Were humans monuments to Pokémon, or vice versa? This era predates Pokeballs by 15 centuries, yet proves coexistence was no accident. It was architecture incarnate, structures that breathe partnership, etched before capture was conceived. These ruins bridge not just regions but epochs. They stand as proof that Pokémon wove into human destiny from the cradle, their forms immortalized in stone, long before badges gleamed or leagues formed. The unknown script endures, a linguistic enigma tying dawn to now, challenging us to read between the glyphs. And as these ancient bonds frayed, leading to overhunting and ecological strains that rippled forward, Kanto itself teetered on the brink of collapse. Up next, Chapter 6, the ecological collapse of Kanto, where a single Pokemon's near extinction reveals how fragile the balance truly was. Those enigmatic ruins, etched with the script of the unknown 1,500 years before the Kanto journeys we know, weren't isolated relics of curiosity. They mark the brink of an environmental catastrophe, right in the heart of Kanto, where the once abundant Farfetch vanished almost entirely from the wild. Picture the dense forests of eastern Kanto in that ancient era, thick with the rustle of leaves and the sharp cries of wild Pokémon. Farfetched, those resilient duck-like creatures clutching a fresh leek in one wing, thrived there in flocks that dotted the wetlands and riverbanks. Their numbers were staggering, a vital thread in the ecosystem, scavenging seeds and insects, while their leeks helped aerate the soil, promoting the growth of understory plants that sheltered smaller Pokémon. Hunters from burgeoning human settlements saw them not as fellow inhabitants, but as an endless bounty. A single Farfetch made a hearty meal, its tender meat roasted over open fires, the leek adding a savoury bite that became legendary in village feasts. What started as opportunistic catches snowballed into relentless pursuit. Communities organised massive hunts, wielding nets woven from tough fibres and spears tipped with sharpened stones. They followed migratory patterns, timing raids during molting seasons, when the birds were flightless and vulnerable. Tales from fragmented Pokédex entries whisper of festivals where hundreds were culled in a single night, their bodies piled high under torchlight, feathers drifting like snow. Demand surged as populations grew. Farfetch weren't just food, but symbols of prosperity, traded in markets from vermilion to celadon precursors. By the time the ruins builders had long passed, the skies over Kanto's marshes fell silent. Flocks that once numbered in the tens of thousands dwindled to whispers, pushed to the edge of oblivion. This overhunting ripped through the region's biodiversity like a chain of falling dominoes. Without Farfetch to control insect hordes, swarms of Beedrill and Venonat exploded unchecked, stripping leaves from trees and leaving saplings barren. The leeks they carried, once natural fertilizers, rotted unused, choking waterways and starving fish populations like Magikarp and Goldeen. Birds of prey, from Pidgeotto to Fearow, starved without the easy prey, forcing them into human territories and sparking early conflicts. Underground, Diglett tunnels collapsed without the surface stability Farfetched leaks provided, flooding burrows and displacing whole colonies. Kanto's forests thinned, meadows turned to dust, and the air grew heavy with the imbalance. Rare sightings of Farfetch became omens, a Pokémon so scarce it was said to bring luck just to glimpse one. Its leak held like a talisman against further ruin. You can feel the desperation in those old settlements, can't you? Smoke from dwindling hearths, children asking why the hunts returned empty-handed, elders murmuring about spirits angered by greed. The loss exposed humanity's fragility, how intertwined they were with these creatures. Farfetched weren't mere animals. Their absence triggered famines, as crop pests ravaged fields unchecked. Villages on the brink turned to each other, sharing stories of Pokémon that once sustained them, now slipping away. This wasn't abstract ecology. It was survival etched into the soil of Kanto. From this void rose the seeds of Pokémon conservation laws, some of the earliest in the known world. Scribes in what would become Saffron City drafted the first edicts around this time, carving prohibitions into stone tablets unearthed near the ruins of Alf. Let no hand fell the leak bearer without cause. One fragment reads, mandating seasonal bans and limits on catches. Penalties were severe: exile for repeat offenders, communal restitution through replanting leeks in wild groves. These weren't modern regulations but primal covenants, born from necessity. Leaders, perhaps shamans attuned to Pokémon cries, enforced them with patrols of loyal Growlithe, marking protected marshes with carved warnings. Over generations, these laws spread westward, influencing trade guilds to value live, far-fetched over slain ones, trading them as companions rather than cuisine. What began as survival morphed into reverence. Hunters who once saw Pokémon as resources, fuel for fires, bait for traps, hides for shelter, began to shift. A Farfetch spared became a partner, its leek a tool for tilling fields, its vigilance warding off pests. Stories emerged of bonds forged in the wilds, where a lone survivor imprinted on a child, teaching the rhythm of the seasons. This pre-Gen-I era marked the pivot from exploitation to alliance. Communities that embraced it flourished. Those that didn't faded into obscurity, their lands still scarred today. Pokémon weren't commodities anymore. They were kin, guardians of the balance humans had nearly shattered. In Kanto's recovering wilds, this ethos took root deep, setting the stage for structures that would formalize human-Pokémon partnership on a grander scale. That's where we'll head next in Chapter 7, the birth of the gym system, uncovering how these ancient lessons crystallized into the battling traditions that define the region even now. What hidden rituals turned conservation into competition? Stay with me as we drift into that story. As Kanto grappled with the fallout from the far-fetched overhunting, societies there began to rethink their bond with Pokémon in profound ways. What emerged wasn't just scattered laws to protect dwindling species, but a structured framework that channeled raw power into something organized, almost ritualistic. Gyms, those unassuming arenas scattered across towns like Pewter and Cerulean, didn't spring up overnight as mere battle halls. They evolved from humble dojos, where local trainers once stood guard against wild outbreaks, places where a Brock-type figure might rally Rock-types to shield quarries from rampaging herds, or a Misty wield her water Pokémon to tame floods threatening river villages. In those early days, before any Grand League whispered of glory, these leaders were protectors first, etched into community lore as the ones who held back chaos. Picture the dusty outskirts of Viridian, where a grizzled veteran with a Venusaur at his side patrolled forests stripped bare by poachers, enforcing the new conservation edicts, with battles that doubled as lessons in restraint. They weren't celebrities yet, just vital threads in the region's fabric. Their badges handmade tokens of respect, passed to those who proved they could coexist with Pokémon without exploiting them. This was Kanto at its core, raw and regional, where survival demanded you master the wilds without becoming one. But whispers of unification stirred. Travelers carried tales from one gym to the next, of trainers collecting these badges like keys to deeper challenges. What started as local rites began linking up, a subtle shift pulling Kanto from its isolated pockets towards something interconnected. The simple narrative of the original era: wander, battle 8 strongholds, claim victory over shadows in the Indigo Plateau, gave way to an institutionalized league structure, formalized badges gleaming with official seals, arenas rebuilt with spectator stands carved from sacred stones. No longer ad hoc defenses, these gyms became beacons, drawing ambitious souls from afar, their leaders elevated from village guardians to sanctioned athletic icons, draped in badges of their own making, immortalized in murals that lined the league's halls. Why Kanto? Why this sun-baked land of starter labs and plateau peaks as the cradle? It traces back to the fragile peace after ecological scars like the far-fetched decline forced leaders to consolidate, while Hoenn churned with its own parallel tempests, Groudon and Kyogre's primal clashes echoing unheard. The Cantonians, hardened by their losses, saw the path clearest. Their plateau, that towering indigo sanctuary, had long hosted informal summits, where elders debated Pokémon harmony, the air thick with the scent of smouldering incense from ancient rites. Here the Elite Four crystallized not as myth, but as a formalized gauntlet, the first true ladder to champion status, decreed by decree from Viridian's peak. Records etched in Celadon archives speak of the turning point, a council in the shadow of Mount Moon, where gym heads convened amid unknown-scratched tablets from 1,500-year-old ruins. They envisioned a system where power served the whole, not just the locale. 8 trials honing challengers, badges as contracts binding trainer to code, Brock's unyielding stones, Misty's cascading waves lieutenant, Surge's crackling vaults, Erica's verdant spores, Koga's veiled poisons, Sabrina's psychic tempests, Blaine's volcanic fury, Giovanni's earthen might, each a pillar, transitioned from solitary watchmen to icons whose battles drew crowds under torchlight, their victories funding conservation enclaves, restocking rivers with far-fetched kin, long vanished from markets. This birth rippled outward. The League's charter, inscribed on parchments yellowed by time, mandated that only those who navigated all 8 prove mastery over type, terrain and temperament could ascend to the plateau's mists. It was Kanto's gift to the world. The blueprint Hoenn would mirror in its own gyms, Sinnoh echo in its frontier trials. Trainers now trained not for survival alone, but for a sanctioned ascent, badges clinking like medals in a parade of progress. Yet beneath the pomp lingered the old ways. The gym leader's gaze still sharp, scanning horizons for threats. Their Pokémon coiled not just for sport, but for the quiet guardianship that birthed it all. As this system took root, tales surfaced of twin titans perched in Johto's heights, guardians whose elemental dance promised balance amid the gathering storms. In our next chapter, O Lugia and the elemental balance, we'll uncover how their fiery rebirth and oceanic vigil reshaped the skies, leaving clues that even Kanto's new league couldn't ignore. What secrets did they whisper to the winds that carried challengers across regions? As the gym leaders of Kanto solidified their roles into the pillars of an emerging league, a mere 3 years later, across the eastern sea in Johto, the winds carried whispers of something far older and more precarious. A delicate pact between radiant skies and abyssal depths, embodied by 2 colossal guardians whose shadows had long shaped the land. In Ecological City, where mist clung to the eaves of ancient dance halls and the air hummed with the faint echo of flutes, the twin towers stood as sentinels against the horizon. The brass tower, gilded in legend, once pierced the clouds like a beacon of harmony, drawing pilgrims who sought the favour of Ho-Oh, the phoenix of resurrection whose rainbow wings promised renewal after devastation. Below it, in the shadowed embrace of the sea, Lugia slumbered within the Whirl Islands, its silvery foreform a vortex of psychic calm that quelled tempests and balanced the raging elements. These weren't mere beasts to conquer. They were the architects of equilibrium, fire and water, ascent and descent, locked in an eternal dance that held Johto's fragile world together. The slow-burn mythology of Johto's legendary birds and their relationship with humanity unfolded not in grand battles, but in the quiet accumulation of tales passed from elder to child, etched into the very stones of the region. Travellers spoke of Ho-Oh's first appearance atop the brass tower, a vision of iridescent feathers igniting the dawn, blessing humanity with its presence, only after witnessing pure hearts amid chaos. Lugia, elusive and profound, revealed itself to those who proved worthy stewards of the waves. Its cry a thunderous hymn that parted storms and revealed hidden grottos teeming with life. For generations, humans revered them not as tools of power, but as symbiotic forces, Ho-Oh granting rebirth to the land's scorched fields, Lugia taming the oceans that threatened to swallow coastal villages. This bond, woven through festivals and offerings, spoke of mutual dependence. humanity's ingenuity fueling the Guardians' vigilance, and the Guardians might shielding humanity from nature's fury. Yet trust, like a flame in dry tinder, could ignite catastrophe. The burning of the brass tower marked that shattering turning point for human Pokémon trust. Legends tell of a lightning strike, or was it human negligence, a spark from careless lanterns during a ritual gone awry, that engulfed the structure in roaring inferno one fateful night, perhaps a century and a half before the League's champions roamed. Trapped within, the three sacred beasts, Raiku's electric fury, Entei's volcanic blaze, Suicune's purifying gale, perished in the blaze, their roars echoing as accusations against the folly of men. Ho-Oh descended in grief and rage, its rainbow plumage dim to ash grey, surveying the smouldering ruin where harmony had burned to cinders. In that moment, the phoenix turned away from humanity, withdrawing to the peaks of Tin Tower, its faith severed by the sight of greed masquerading as progress. The tower, rechristened the Burned Tower, became a hollow scar, its charred beams whispering warnings to all who approached, a monument to how one blaze could fracture an ancient alliance. From those ashes, though glimmers of redemption stirred, deep in Ecrotic's heart, the kimono girls emerged as custodians of the fractured vow. Clad in flowing silks, the colour of twilight petals, they gathered each generation in the dance theatre, their movements a living tapestry of the ancient promise. That oath sworn between Ho-Oh, Lugia, and the early settlers to maintain elemental balance through ritual and restraint. How the kimono girls preserved the ancient promise through generations of ritual was a feat of unwavering devotion. Mothers, teaching daughters the precise sway of hips that mimicked ocean swells, the flutter of sleeves evoking phoenix wings, flutes carved from sacred driftwood, trilling melodies that once coaxed Lugia from the depths. These weren't performances for applause, but invocations, year after year, under moonlit roofs fragrant with incense. They reenacted the pact, their bodies channeling the Guardian's essence to heal the rift. In heart gold and soul silver, this culminated when the player, guided by their ethereal guidance, awakened the purified beasts and earned Ho-Oh's wary return, proving humanity could mend what it had broken. Picture the scene in those hidden chambers. Silk whispering against tatami mats, the scent of cherry blossoms mingling with sea salt carried on breezes from the Whirl Islands. The girls' bare feet tracing patterns, worn smooth by centuries of steps. Each ritual bound the elements tighter. Fire's warmth tempered by water's depth, wind's freedom checked by earth's anchor, reminding all that Ho-Oh and Lugia weren't distant deities, but responsive spirits, their appearances hinging on humanity's stewardship. Yoto's narrative depth lay here, in this patient layering. From the monk's solemn tales in Bellchime Trail to the fisherman's hushed warnings at Cianwood, every path converged on this mythology, building tension like a storm gathering over the sea. Even as Lugia's domain churned with whirlpools that could swallow ships whole, its psychic aura radiated a profound stillness, a counterweight to Ho-Oh's blazing vitality. Sailors who braved the maelstroms returned with eyes wide, describing visions of the diving guardian parting waters like silk, its fins slicing through foam to reveal bioluminescent realms below. Ho-Oh, perched aloof on Tin Tower's pinnacle, surveyed the land with eyes like molten gold, igniting rainbows across storm clouds as harbingers of forgiveness. This duality, sky's exaltation and sea's introspection, mirrored Yoto itself, a region of mist-shrouded peaks and tide-lashed shores, where human ambition had to bow to nature's rhythm. The beast's revival in the Burned Tower's depths added another layer, their restless spirits roaming Johto's wilds, until a pure-hearted trainer reunited them, echoing the kimono girl's endless vigil. Suicune's crystalline form, born anew from northern waters, embodied purification. Raiku's lightning streak a jolt of untamed energy, Entei's mane a forge of enduring heat. Together, they bridged the Guardians, roaming as emissaries, their presence a tentative olive branch from Ho-Oh, who watched from afar. In this intricate web, Johto revealed how legendaries weren't endpoints, but threads in a larger tapestry of coexistence. Their elemental balance a lesson etched in fire and flood. And as we trace these mythic currents forward, Chapter 9, the Great System Overhaul, uncovers the seismic shifts that redefined how trainers and Pokémon clashed across regions. What radical reinvention turned rivals into something entirely new, pulling back the curtain on mechanics that reshaped the world forever. As the ashes of the Brass Tower settled in Yoto, mending the fragile bond between humans and their Pokémon partners, another profound shift rippled across the world. One that unfolded not in sequence, but in perfect parallel. Kanto's young trainers were just setting out from Pallet Town, badges gleaming fresh on their journeys, when far to the south, across vast uncharted seas, the rugged coasts of Hoenn came alive with its own epic struggles. Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire didn't follow Gold and Silver in time. They happened right alongside Red and Blue, Fire Red and Leaf Green. A revelation that rewrites how the Pokémon timeline. This simultaneity demanded a complete reinvention. Generation 3 marked the first true hard reset for the Pokémon world's connectivity, severing ties that had once linked every handheld device in a player's collection. No longer could you slip a Game Boy cartridge into a new machine and trade your prized Charizard for a fresh starter from afar. The shift to the Game Boy Advance hardware shattered that bridge entirely, forcing trainers everywhere to start anew in a region that stood utterly alone. Hoenn's isolation wasn't just a mapmaker's whim. It was a deliberate narrative chasm, echoing the technical one. While Kanto buzzed with Team Rocket's schemes and the quiet rivalry of old friends, Hoenn's story brewed in secrecy. Team Aqua and Magma clashing over the planet's very heartbeat, their leaders blind to the distant echoes of Giovanni's empire. Picture the salty spray of Hoenn's harbours, where fishing boats bobbed under perpetual storms, and the air hummed with the cries of Wingull wheeling overhead. This land of volcanoes and mirage islands developed its own intricate web of alliances and betrayals, untouched by Kantian influences. Gym leaders here weren't echoes of Brock's stone-walled gym. They were sculpted by local legends. Norman guarding with his loyal slaking in a house that doubled as an arena. Winona soaring on Altaria, amid Petalburg Wood's misty canopies. The isolation amplified every conflict. Without Kanto's shadow, Hoenn's tale delved deeper into primal forces, pitting ocean against earth in a war that could drown or scorch the world. Narratively, it layered the timeline with parallel threads, suggesting a globe-spanning saga where heroes rose unaware of each other, their victories sinking like unseen tides. But the reset went far beyond maps or rivalries. It struck at the heart of every Pokémon's place in the world. 135 new species burst onto the scene, from the serpentine beauty of Milotic, gliding through underwater caves, to the explosive fury of Camerupt thundering across jagged pass. This influx wasn't mere expansion. It demanded a total re-evaluation of the National Pokédex, that sacred ledger of all known life. The original 151 from Kanto suddenly felt like a mere prologue. Their numbers reshuffled as Hoenn's newcomers claimed slots 386 through 520. Absol, the omen of disaster, slotted in at number 359, its piercing gaze forcing taxonomists to rethink disaster Pokémon entirely. Beldum and its evolutions redefined metallic lines, while the likes of Tropius swayed into the mix, blending tropical abundance with ancient flight. Trainers in Hoenn faced a Pokédex swollen beyond recognition, requiring fresh strategies for contests, battles and breeding dens hidden in fiery craters. The National Order, once a straightforward climb from Bulbasaur to Mewtwo, now wove in Relicanth from abyssal depths and Kecleon vanishing into Lilikov's markets, creatures that challenged every assumption about habitats and evolutions. This overhaul echoed through the lore. Hoenn starters, Trico, Torchic, and Mudkip, weren't just rivals to Kanto's trio. They embodied the region's untamed wilds, forcing the world to expand its understanding of type synergies and regional variants before such concepts even had names. In this isolated cradle, narratives grew thorns. Ruby and Sapphire flipped the script on antagonists. Team Magma allying briefly in one version, Aqua in the other, mirroring how Hoenn's duality of land and sea refused easy heroes. Emerald wove them together under Archie and Maxie's hubris, a tale of unchecked ambition that paralleled Kanto's own without ever intersecting. The technical walls reinforced this. No trades meant no bleed of Mewtwo's psychic might into Rayquaza's skyward roars, preserving Hoenn's purity while hinting at a broader disconnected mosaic. Yet as Hoenn's skies cleared and its people gazed northward, whispers of even older powers stirred beneath the waves and mountains, powers that predated gyms, badges, even the first human settlements. In our next chapter, Primal Forces and Planetary Origins, we'll descend into the primordial clash that shaped Hoenn's core, where legends like Groudon and Kyogre awaken hungers that could remake the entire world. What cataclysm birthed these titans? And how did their rage nearly erase everything we hold dear? Stay with me as we uncover it all. While Hoenn's isolation marked a hard reset in how we connect across regions, its legends pulse with the same era as Kanto's triumphs, unfolding in parallel as the land itself stirs beneath human feet. Deep in the Hoenn region's lore, two colossal beings embody the raw birth of the planet. Forces so ancient, they predate the first human footprints on fertile soil. Groudon and Kyogre stand as the personification of the Earth's physical formation. Titans locked in eternal tension between expanding continents and swelling oceans. Picture the primordial chaos before skies cleared and mountains rose. Groudon, the continent maker, erupts from the planet's molten core, its crimson hide cracking like cooling lava as it heaves the seafloor upward. Every step forges crags and valleys, sunlight pouring from its body to drought the waves and birth sprawling landmasses. Across the endless blue, Kyogre surges, a leviathan of azure scales and primal fury, summoning torrents that carve seabeds deeper, flooding lowlands into vast watery realms. Their clash isn't mere battle. It's the heartbeat of geological epochs, the slow sculpting of Hoenn's archipelago from violent opposition. Fossils whisper of this dance in the desert ruins and underwater caverns, where sediment layers hold echoes of floods and quakes that redrew coastlines overnight. These aren't gods of whimsy, but embodiments of tectonic fury, slumbering in caverns beneath Mount Chimney and the seafloor cavern, their dreams rumbling as minor tremors. Awakening them unleashes primal reversion, forms amplified by ancient stones that hark back to the planet's infancy. Blue orb and red orb, artifacts pulsing with otherworldly energy, were forged in this strife. Tools that once bent the titans to human will, yet legends etched in cave walls at Granite Cave warn of the cost. When Groudon scorches the skies red and Kyogre drowns the world in endless rain, balance shatters, leaving only survival for the swift. Into this fragile equilibrium step Team Magma and Team Aqua, factions born from ideological zeal that mirrors our own world's environmental divides. Team Magma, clad in volcanic red, reveres Groudon as saviour, plotting to expand landmasses at any price, submerging oceans to claim dry earth for humanity's dominion. Their leader, Maxie, envisions a verdant paradise, free from watery constraints, blind to the deserts his ambitions would spawn. Opposing them, Team Aqua's divers in sleek blue harness, Kyogre's might, dreaming of oceans swallowing continents to restore primal seas, purging overbuilt shores for aquatic purity. Archie leads with fervent passion, seeing land dwellers as invaders on fluid freedom. Their conflict rages as a proxy for environmental extremism, where noble intents twist into catastrophe. Submarine skirmishes off Route 104, aerial assaults over Meteor Falls, each side wielding stolen orbs to rouse the beast. This proxy war exposes the hubris at play. In Ruby and Sapphire, loyalties flip like tides, Magma as villains to Sapphire's eyes, while Aqua menaces Ruby's path, a narrative slight revealing extremism's relativity. Emerald unites them against a greater threat, but the scars linger, soot-choked skies from Groudon's rampage, whirlpools devouring fleets from Kyogre's wrath, Players navigate this not as bystanders but as balancers, awakening Rayquaza from ozone heights to enforce truce, its draconic roar silencing the primal duo once more. Yet peel back these layers, and a chilling truth emerges from Hoenn scrolls and elder tales. Human civilization exists only by the grace of sleeping titans. Cities like Slateport cling to reclaimed shores, Lilycove's ports bob on waves held in check, Rustborough's factories hum on earth that could upheave in a yawn. 3,000 years of Galar's darkest storms fell against Hoenn's foundational fury, where every harvest and hearth owes debt to dormant restraint. The Pokémon League itself, badges gleaming in Evergrande's halls, stands on primordial fault lines, a testament to how precariously we thrive amid giants at rest. These planetary origins ripple beyond Hoenn's waves, threading into Sinnoh's own Genesis myths, where time, space, and distortion weave the fabric of reality itself. As we drift toward Chapter 11, the Sinnoh mythos and the creation trio, you'll uncover how Dialga's ticks birthed chronology from nothingness, pulling every era we've explored into cosmic alignment. What happens when the architects of existence turn their gaze upon us? Before we dive deeper into this incredible journey, I'm curious. Where in the world are you watching this from? Drop a comment below and let our global community know. And if you're finding this as mind-blowing as I am, hit that like button to help more people discover this story. While Grudon and Kyogre shaped the land and seas of our world, forces far more primordial stirred in the distant chill of Sinnoh, where the very threads of existence weave the cosmos together. There, ancient myths whisper of a trio that doesn't merely command elements or regions, but births reality from nothingness. Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina, the architects of time, space, and the antimatter realm. These aren't guardians of mountains or oceans. They are the relentless engines that pulse through every moment, every inch of void, holding the universe in their unyielding grasp. Picture the frozen peaks of Mount Coronet, where jagged spires pierce clouds heavy with eternal snow. Legends carved into Sinnoh's ruins speak of a time before humans scratched their first marks on stone. Dialga emerged first, its steel blue form armoured like the gears of infinity, roaring forth the river of time itself. Every tick of your heartbeat, every flicker of starlight across the night sky flows from its domain. It doesn't bend time, it forges it, an unbreakable chain linking past to future, where even the mightiest trainers stand as fleeting sparks. Wander the depths of Celestic Town's caverns, and you'll feel echoes of its primal pulse, a rhythm that warps the air, making shadows lag behind the light. Then came Palkia, its pearl-pink scales shimmering like fractured dimensions, twisting the void into the spaces we inhabit. Space isn't a backdrop in Sinnoh's lore. It's a living, breathing force, stretched and folded by Palkia's will. Mountains rise because it wills the earth to part. Oceans cradle islands because it carves the contours of possibility. In the lore tablets of the Sinnoh elders, Palkia battles endless chaos, preventing the world from collapsing into a singularity, where distance loses all meaning and every step leads back to the start. Feel that vertigo when you gaze into the Spear Pillar's abyss. That's Palkia's breath, the raw edge where reality frays. But balance demands opposition, and from the distortion between them slithered Giratina, exiled to the antimatter realm known as the Distortion World. This isn't some shadowy underworld. It's a mirror realm of inverted gravity and warped physics, where flaws become ceilings and left twists into right. Giratina, with its ghostly wings and golden veins like shattered halos, embodies the antimatter that counters creation. It devours imbalance, a ravenous shadow, ensuring time and space don't unravel into madness. Legends tell of its rage, shaking the veil between worlds, pulling unlucky souls into eternal reversal, where thoughts flow backward and memories bleed into the unborn. Generation Oi didn't just hand you new Pokémon to catch, it shattered the old stakes, shifting from battles over regional control to piercing the fabric of reality itself. No longer were villains scheming for badges or territories. In Sinnoh, the air hummed with cosmic dread, every gym badge a step toward unraveling existence. The Diamond Clan and Pearl Clan, ancient worshippers divided by these legends, etched their devotion into history, their chants echoing through fog-shrouded valleys. They saw Dialga as the eternal sovereign of time, Palkia as the spatial arbiter, and Giratina as the necessary outcast. This mythos elevated Pokémon from pets and fighters to deities whose awakening could erase everything. Enter Cyrus, leader of Team Galactic, a man whose cold intellect saw imperfection in the chaos of life. He wasn't driven by greed for power or twisted ecology like Magma or Aqua. Cyrus sought perfection through annihilation, summoned Dialga and Palkia to the Spear Pillar, forced their clash to tear open the rift to Giratina's domain, and in that cataclysm, erase the universe, not conquer it, reset it. A blank canvas devoid of emotion, conflict, or the messy spark of humanity. Imagine the red chain he forged, pulsing with stolen life force from lake Pokémon like Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf, the lake guardians who embody knowledge, emotion, and willpower. He bound them, twisted their essences into tools, all to call forth gods indifferent to mortal pleas. The terrifying implications of Cyrus's plan to reset the entire universe linger like frost on your skin. Victory for him meant no Sinnoh, no Kanto, no Hoenn. Time unwinds, space collapses, antimatter floods in. Your rivals grin. The warmth of a Pokémon Center, the thrill of a badge click, all gone, replaced by sterile void. Platinum's distortion world plunges you into that nightmare. Floating islands defy gravity. Black ichor rains upward, and Giratina's silhouette warps the horizon. Cyrus stands there, unblinking, whispering of a new world without pain. But you feel it. The game's genius lies in making you confront oblivion, where one wrong move lets reality slip away. Sinnoh's mythos weaves these legends into every corner. The galactic dome looms over Canalav City, like a mechanical omen, its speakers blaring distorted hymns to Dialga and Palkia. Trainers in Snowpoint Temple murmur of the Snowpoint myth, tying Giratina's exile to endless blizzards that bury secrets. Even Professor Rowan, with his quiet wisdom, hints at chains older than humanity, linking back to ruins that predate Johto's towers by millennia. This generation forced us to question, if time, space, and antimatter are alive, what does that make us? Specks in their shadow, or threads in the grand design? As whispers of these architects fade into the northern winds, deeper origins call from the heart of creation itself. In our next chapter, Arceus and the original one, will uncover the alpha force that birthed even Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina. What cataclysmic act set this cosmic machine in motion, and why it watches us still? Drift toward that revelation now, letting the myths pull you under. Above the swirling chaos of Giratina's distortion world, beyond the relentless march of Dialga's time, and the boundless expanse shaped by Palkia, there rests a singular presence that defies comprehension. Arceus, the original one, the alpha entity from which all existence sprang. This isn't just another legendary Pokémon tucked into Sinnoh's myths. It's the architect behind the architects, the force that willed the universe into being long before any human set foot on these snowy peaks. In the ancient scrolls of Sinnoh, passed down through generations of elders, in Celestic Town, Arceus is depicted as a radiant wheel of pure energy, its body a canvas of shifting plates that embody every type known to Pokémon kind. These plates, you see, aren't mere adornments. They pulsed with the raw essence of creation itself. When Arceus shed one infused with steel-like resolve, Dialga emerged to forge time's unyielding chain. A plate shimmering with spatial void birthed Palkia, stretching reality across infinite dimensions. And from the shadowed, turbulent plate came Giratina, cast into exile to balance the antimatter that threatens to unravel it all. Picture that moment, a formless void, pregnant with potential, shattered by Arceus's divine roar, birthing not just Pokémon, but the very laws that govern them. The air would have hummed with otherworldly light, snowflakes from distant mountains freezing mid-fall as time itself flickered into focus. This revelation in Generation 4 didn't just elevate Sinnoh's stakes, it rewrote the foundational theology of the Pokémon world. We're investigating the alpha Pokémon here, those towering behemoths that roam wild in ancient Hisui, larger and fiercer than their modern kin, marking territories with primal dominance. But Arceus stands as the ultimate alpha, the progenitor whose shadow looms over every ecosystem, every evolutionary line. Legends whisper that these alphas echo Arceus's original fury, oversized guardians enforcing the natural order before humans dared to challenge it. The theological origins unfold like a sacred tapestry. Arceus, in its benevolence or indifference, created the Sinnoh Lake Guardians, Uxie for knowledge, Mesprit for emotion, Azel for willpower, to seed human minds with the spark of sentience. Without this divine intervention, would we even ponder our place in this world? The myths posit a cosmos born from loneliness, Arceus crafting life to fill the silence of eternity, then retreating to observe from afar. Mount Coronet, Sinnoh's highest peak, pierces the heavens like a jagged throne, its summit known as the Spear Pillar, where the creation trio first descended. But to truly commune with the original one, you need the azure flute, an ethereal instrument of blue crystal, its melody said to resonate with the frequencies of creation itself. Legends of Arceus tie directly to this flute and the peak's hidden hall of origin, a realm accessible only to the pure of heart. Play its haunting notes at the pillar, and the fabric of reality parts, revealing a staircase of light ascending to Arceus's domain. Wind howls through the ruins, ancient carvings glowing as the flute's song calls forth the creator, its form materializing in a blaze of golden wheels, eyes piercing like stars. This isn't folklore for tour guides. Event distributions in the games made it real for players, a pilgrimage that demands mastery over Sinnoh's trials. The flute, lost to time in most tales, symbolizes humanity's fragile bridge to divinity. Blow it wrong, and the peak claims you in avalanche and storm. Now consider how the existence of this creator deity reshapes every previous generation's lens. Kanto's Mew, once hailed as the ancestor of all Pokémon, dims in Arceus's light. Mew becomes a playful echo, a genetic remnant of the original one's grand design. Yoto's Ho-Oh and Lugia, guardians of balance, now serve as stewards under Arceus's distant gaze, their towers mere outposts in a cosmos forged by its will. Hoen's Groudon and Kyogre, those primal land and sea titans, wrestle not in isolation but as facets of Arceus's earth and water plates, their cataclysm a ripple from the creator's initial breath. Even the environmental scars, like the far-fetched overhunting 1500 years before Kanto's gyms rose, gain cosmic weight, human folly testing the delicate harmony Arceus imposed. Generation 4 doesn't add a chapter, it authors the prologue, turning regional legends into parables of a unified theology where every Pokémon, from Rattata to Rayquaza, traces back to that singular source. Deep in Hisui's ancient wilds, as chronicled in the Legends game, alphas prowl with territorial roars that shake the earth, their sizes defying modern norms, forcing surveyors to adapt or perish. Arceus's influence lingers there too, its plates dictating type advantages that turn battles into divine judgments. The Diamond Clan and Pearl Clan, split in their worship of Dialga and Palkia, unknowingly orbit the truth of Arceus, their rituals blind to the one above. Snow dusts the bamboo thickets as alphas clash, mirrors of the chaos before creation settled. This alpha phenomenon invites us to question, are they harbingers of Arceus's return, or warnings that humanity's Pokémon League tames what was meant to rule wild? The Azure Flute's link to Coronet's Peak endures in player lore, a beta event item that Nintendo teased but rarely delivered, fueling mysteries around glitches and hacks that summon Arceus prematurely. Climbers speak of blue lights dancing on the summit during storms. The flute's ghost melody carried on winds from the Hall of Origin. It's a call to ascension, where the creator judges the world's stewardship. Have we honoured the plate's legacy, or corrupted it with our ambitions? Retrenting Arceus into prior eras transforms the timeline. That darkest day in Galar 3,000 years back, with Eternatus' storm, perhaps a distortion from Giratina's realm, unchecked without Arceus' intervention, as is eternal war in Kalos, a mortal grasping for godhood in the shadow of the true divine. Even Unova's brewing schism, pitting truth against ideals in a land of dragons. What hidden plate does that invoke? And how does Arceus weigh twins torn by philosophy? Drift toward that revelation in our next chapter, the Unova schism. Truth versus ideals, where Reshiram and Zekrom force us to choose sides in the creator's grand design. From the frozen spires of Mount Coronet, where the azure flute's melody once pierced the heavens to awaken Arceus itself, the Pokémon world's chronology drifts forward through whispers of time, landing us in Unova, a region born from division, where the very essence of truth clashes with the fire of ideals. This land, emerging a few years after the echoes of Joe's Towers and Sinnoh's creation myths, marks Generation 5's boldest stroke, a philosophical departure that dared to question the heart of what it means to bond with Pokémon. Unova sprawls like a modern metropolis, fused with ancient secrets, its skyline pierced by the twisting silhouette of Nimbasa City and the shadowed halls of Driftveil. Here trainers don't just chase badges. They wander into a moral thicket, where right and wrong blur like fog over Chargestone Cave. Team Plasma arrives not as cartoonish villains hurling Pokeballs from blimps, but as zealots cloaked in noble rhetoric, preaching liberation for Pokémon from human captivity. Their leader, cloaked in green and shadowed by a voice both childlike and commanding, claims friendship with Pokémon is a lie, a gilded chain disguised as partnership. Yet peel back their banners, and you find layers of deception. Plasma's grunts hoard the very creatures they decry, breeding an army in hidden bases, while their king dreams of a purified world. This moral ambiguity forces you to confront your own role. Are you oppressor or ally? Their schism isn't born from greed alone, but from a fractured history etched into Unova's bones. 2,500 years before Unova's gyms light up with battles, twin heroes stood at the region's dawn, each wielding a single dragon that embodied their vision for humanity's future. One brother sought truth absolute, unyielding facts to guide progress. The other chased ideals, dreams that propel the soul beyond cold reality. Their convictions tore the dragon asunder, birthing Reshiram and Zekrom, not primordial beasts of land or sea, not architects of time and space, but manifestations of human conviction itself. Reshiram, with wings of white flame and a turbine tail that roars like judgment, seeks the pure pursuit of knowledge, scorching illusions to reveal what is. Zekrom, cloaked in black thunder, its crimson eyes blazing with purpose, embodies the ideals that drive heroes to reshape destiny, even if it means defying the world as it stands. These dragons don't slumber in distant ruins. They awaken only when a soul proves worthy, drawn to trainers whose hearts echo the ancient rift. In Unova's sky, their clash illuminates the schism. Truth without ideals is barren. Ideals without truth are madness. At the eye of this storm walks N, the betrayed Prince of Plasma, raised in isolation amid the cries of caged Pokémon that his father, Getsis, twisted into weapons. N hears their voices, not as commands, but as pleas for freedom, and his journey becomes a searing critique of the fundamental Pokémon trainer lifestyle. From the moment you cross paths in Accumula Town, where he releases his own Darumaka rather than battle, N challenges the ritual you take for granted, capturing wild hearts in spheres, commanding them to fight for glory. He sees enslavement where you see partnership, a Pokémon parade in his castle, a grotesque mockery of your badge quest. As he ascends Dragon Spiral Tower, befriending the legendary Dragon of Legend, N's purity unravels Getsis's web, revealing how conviction can blind even the well-intentioned. His arc pierces deeper than any Elite Four gauntlet, asking if your bonds are mutual, or merely dominion dressed in affection. In the end, atop the Pokémon League, as Reshiram or Zekrom joins your side, N's defeat isn't triumph, it's a mirror, forcing reflection on the trainer's path you've walked unquestioned. Unova's waters lap against Castilia's piers, carrying rumours of ancient kings who once harnessed these dragons to unite fractured tribes, only to watch their ideals crumble into war. The relic castle buries their relics beneath desert sands, a testament to how truth and conviction, unchecked, erode civilizations. Plasma's blimp circles above like a vulture, but their ideology lingers, seeding doubt in every Pokeball you toss. This generation doesn't just expand the map, it dissects the soul of the journey, turning the series' joyful escapism into a meditation on ethics and ambition. Even as N fades into the horizon, vowing to understand the world's grey shades, Unova's schism ripples outward, hinting at fractures in reality itself that later eras will tear wide open. Coming up in Chapter 14, Multiverse Theory and Mega Evolution, we'll uncover how parallel worlds and hidden evolutions rewrite the rules of existence, pulling legends from shadows you never knew watched. Drift deeper with me as these threads tighten. While Unova's legends, Reshiram and Zekrom, embodied the raw force of human conviction splitting truth from ideals, Hoenn's remade saga in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire quietly shattered the illusion of a single, linear Pokémon world. Rayquaza descended once more, not just to quell the primal clash of Groudon and Kyogre, but to reveal fractures in reality itself. Parallel timelines branching like roots beneath the ocean floor. You feel the weight of it in the Delta episode, that post-game epilogue where the stars align in unnatural patterns. A meteor streaks across Hoenn's sky, crashing near the player's doorstep, and from its glowing crater emerges Deoxys, the DNA Pokémon, pulsing with alien energy. But this isn't mere invasion. Zinnia, the enigmatic Draconid lawkeeper, whispers of ancient prophecies etched into meteorites, foretelling a catastrophe that could devour worlds. As you chase cosmic signals through the stars, allying with Rayquaza in its mega-evolved form, the episode culminates in a desperate stand atop the Sky Pillar. Lysandre from distant Kalos pierces through dimensions via his ultimate weapon, seeking to hijack the dimensional rift for his own apocalypse. Rayquaza's dragon ascent seals the breach, but not before the narrative lays bare the truth. Hoenn's events echo across multiple realities, confirming parallel timelines exist, woven into the fabric of the Pokémon multiverse. This revelation hinges on Mega Evolution, that burst of infinite power unlocked by stones and bonds, which doesn't just amplify Pokémon, it warps time itself. In the original Ruby and Sapphire, Mega Evolution was absent. Trainers battled with raw potential, primal reversion stirring the land and sea to their ancient fury. Yet Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire introduced these shimmering mega stones, scattered like forgotten relics across Hoenn's landscape. From the depths of Route 104's secret shore to the volcanic crags of Scorched Slab. Why? Because these remakes aren't retellings, they're divergences. The Delta episode explicitly frames them as the Mega Timeline, a branch where Mega Evolution's energy permeates the world, allowing Sceptile to sprout thorny blades, Swampert to swell with primordial might, and Rayquaza to achieve Delta Stream supremacy without a stone. Contrast this with the original timeline, the unaltered path of the classic Generation 3 games. There, no Megastones gleam in hidden grottos, no keystones bond with trainers' wrists. The energy simply never arrived, or never manifested. The Delta episode's lawkeeper Zinnia alludes to it through Draconid tablets. Meteor showers in the ancient past showered select regions with this power, but only where cosmic forces align just so. Hoenn, Kanto in its fire red and leaf green echoes, and Sinnoh bear these stones because their timelines intersected with a specific meteor cascade, perhaps tied to Deoxys' wanderings or Rayquaza's eternal vigil. Kalos, warped by its own war 3,000 years prior, received them too, embedded in fairy tale forests and eclipse-timed caves. But venture to Yoto, Unova or Alola, and the stones vanish like mist at dawn. No Mega Lucario surges in Ecrotique's ruins, no Mega Superior coils in Navima Town's fields. These regions remain untouched by the energy, their timelines insulated, perhaps by Lugia's whirlpools, Curum's frozen schism, or the Ultra Beast's wormholes. The implication chills the spine. Mega Evolution isn't universal evolution. It's a temporal anomaly, blooming only where parallel worlds brush close enough to bleed power. In the Mega Timeline, Hoenn's Devon Corporation reverse engineers this energy into wondrous devices, linking Pokémon storage across regions in ways the original timeline's Pokédex never dreamed. Trainers their glimpse infinities, their Lucario's aura flaring with visions of alternate selves. Ponder the Guardians at the heart of it. Rayquaza, in its mega form, doesn't merely mega evolve. It reverts to a delta stream state, manipulating weather across dimensions to protect the multiverse's balance. Deoxys shifts forms not through battle, but by attuning to the rift's frequencies, its alien helix adapting to threats from beyond. Zinnia guards the law not for Hoenn alone, but for every timeline where the meteor falls true. Lysandra's intrusion from Kalos underscores the peril. Weapons like his can puncture these veils, dragging apocalypses across realities. The Delta episode doesn't shout its multiverse, it embeds it in every shooting star, every holographic flare. This split explains the stone's selective presence with haunting precision. Mega energy, born from infinite evolutionary potential, cascades via cosmic debris, meteors laced with otherworldly essence. Hoenn's position as a nexus, flanked by primal leviathans and sky sentinels, funneled these impacts. Kanto inherited scraps through trade winds and migratory flights. Sinnoh via Mount Coronets pierce into the distortion world. Regions like Unova, forged in ideological fire rather than celestial collision, evolved without it. Their legends embody conviction over cataclysm. Alola's islands, adrift in wormhole seas, channel ultra energy instead, a parallel power untouched by stones. As these timelines diverge, the Pokémon world reveals its infinite layers, each mega flash a window to what might have been, or still could be. The Guardians watch from their pillars and peaks, ensuring no single thread unravels the tapestry. And yet, this multiversal dance sets the stage for even more intimate myths, where a tiny, curious Nebby doesn't just witness legends but becomes the bridge between worlds. In the next chapter, The Nebby Connection, Mythology Made Personal will uncover how one puff of a cosmog pulls the stars into your pocket, turning cosmic wanderers into lifelong companions. What secrets does this little one hold that could eclipse even Rayquaza's gaze? As those parallel timelines in Hoenn's Delta episode faded into the cosmic backdrop, Generation 7 took a strikingly different path, pulling the divine right into your pocket, quite literally. In the sun-drenched islands of Alola, the legendary Pokémon Solgaleo and Lunala weren't distant guardians looming over the horizon. They became companions in a deeply personal tale of transformation. You start your journey in Alola, not chasing badges in the traditional sense, but weaving through trials that mirror life's own uncertainties. Early on, you encounter Lily, a shy girl clutching a bag that wriggles with something alive, something ethereal. She's fleeing her overbearing mother, Lusamine, head of the Ether Foundation, and in that bag hides Cosmog, a fragile, nebula-like creature she calls Nebby. This little being, all starry mist and wide-eyed wonder, doesn't just tag along. It evolves alongside you, mirroring the growth you both undergo amid Alola's lush volcanoes, misty highlands and crashing shores. Lily's journey forms the emotional core that grounds the Alolan legend, turning ancient myths into something heartbreakingly human. She's introduced as timid, a voice barely above a whisper, hiding behind oversized clothes and her Pokémon's innocence. Nebby, in its Cosmog form, is helpless, floating like a lost cloud, poking its head out of the bag during pivotal moments, slipping into forbidden areas, drawing you into dangers that force Lily to confront her fears. You see her flinch at the sight of wild Pokémon battles, yet she persists, nurturing Nebby as if it were her own fragile heart made manifest. This bond isn't abstract, it's tactile, born from quiet moments on beaches where the trade winds carry the scent of plumeria, and Nebby's soft glow reflects in the waves under a perpetual twilight sky. As your adventure deepens, so does Nebby's form. It sheds its infantile haze to become Cosmoem, a cosmic cocoon, heavy and dormant, demanding protection through the fiery trials of Weller Volcano Park and the shadowy depths of 10 Carat Hill. Here, the game's genius shines. You're not just battling grunts or gym leaders, You're safeguarding a legend in gestation. Lily carries Cosmoem like a sacred burden, her steps growing steadier, a resolve hardening with each near miss. The evolution of Cosmog serves as a bridge between the player and the divine, pulling you from the everyday grind of catching Caterpie into the realm of gods. When Cosmoem finally bursts forth, into Solgaleo under the blazing Alolan sun or Lunala beneath the moon's silvery veil, it's your shared triumph, not a solo revelation atop some unreachable summit. Generation 7 integrated Solgaleo and Lunala into a character's personal growth by making their emergence inseparable from Lily's arc. No longer are legendaries summoned by flutes or rituals. They hatch from nurturing, from the quiet acts of care amid family strife and ecological threats. Luzamine's obsession with ultra beasts twists her into a villain who seeks to merge worlds, but Lily stands against her, bag in hand, declaring her independence. By the time you reach the altar of the sun or moon, perched on Executor Island's jagged cliffs where the ocean roars eternally below, Lily releases Nebby not as a pet, but as family stepping into destiny. Solgaleo, the sun-devouring lion with mane like solar flares, or Lunala, the bat-like moon emissary trailing psychic mist, emerges roaring, ready to ferry you through the rift. Yet it's Lily's tear-streaked face, her voice cracking with pride, that lingers. This intimacy reshapes Alola's mythology. The Tapas, those enigmatic deer-like guardians draped in shells and shells of coral and bone, whisper of an ancient pact where the sun and moon Pokémon shielded the islands from the world's edge. But through Nebby, you live it. The bag's warmth against your side during quiet nights in Hacer City. The hush of Lily's stories about her father's disappearance. The electric thrill when Nebby teleports you both to safety. Lily's transformation, from sheltered girl to kahuna-defying force, anchors it all, proving that divinity isn't inherited or conquered, but cultivated in vulnerability. A mother's Aether paradise, that floating fortress of pristine white corridors and hidden labs humming with otherworldly energy, becomes the stage for this climax. Luzamine, eyes wild with longing for the beauty of ultraspace, unleashes horrors that Nebby must counter. In that moment, as Solgaleo or Lunala clashes with the Nihilego that possesses her, Lily's cry pierces the chaos. She's not just saving her Pokémon, she's reclaiming her own shattered family. The legend feels earned, personal, because you've walked every step with them. The salty spray of Ponai Island's breakers, the humid press of Mali Garden's foliage, the starlit vigils waiting for evolution. Alola's elders speak of the Blinding One and the Emissary, myths etched into cave walls slick with moisture, but Lily makes them breathe. Her growth echoes yours. Starting small, facing trials that scar but strengthen, emerging with power that's as much emotional as it is legendary. Nebby isn't a plot device. It's the thread-stitching player, character, and cosmos together, evolving from a puff of gas into a beacon that illuminates the soul's quiet revolutions. And as those rifts to other dimensions begin to tear open wider, hinting at threats far beyond Alola's shores, we edge closer to even stranger frontiers. Up next, Chapter 16, The Mystery of Ultraspace, where the veil thins and secrets from beyond our stars threaten to unravel everything we've known. As Cosmog blossomed into the radiant forms of Solgaleo or Lunala, those cosmic travelers didn't just bridge the gap between you and the divine. They ripped open doorways to realms beyond imagining. Ultraspace, a fractured void of shimmering wormholes and endless twilight, began spilling its secrets into Alola's skies, heralding invaders no one saw coming. These weren't the majestic legendaries tied to creation or ideals. Ultra beasts crashed through like predators from a nightmare ecosystem, invasive species from outside the known dimension, their bodies defying every law of Pokémon biology. Picture Kartana slicing the air with paper-thin blades that could fell ancient trees in a single whirl, or Pheromosa darting across beaches faster than the eye could track, her exoskeleton gleaming like polished porcelain under the tropical sun. Buzzwole pumped iron from the shadows of palm groves, veins bulging with alien strength, while circuitry snaked through power lines, draining electricity with insatiable hunger. They weren't born of Alola's warm waters or volcanic peaks. These were refugees, or perhaps conquerors, warped by the pressures of their home voids, emerging hungry and disoriented, scattering chaos wherever portals yawned open. Reports trickled in from fishermen, spotting tentacles thrashing in the surf, villagers fleeing as crystalline shards rained from sudden tears in reality. The islands, once a haven of personal myths, now pulsed with an existential dread, as if the fabric of the world had grown thin enough to let something ravenous slip through. At the heart of this incursion stood the Ether Foundation, a gleaming paradise of conservation, masking a descent into obsession. Lusamine, its enigmatic president, had long collected rare Pokémon, like treasures in a vault, a private paradise floating above the waves, a sterile monument to control. But her fascination with Ultra Beasts twisted into something darker, experiments that blurred the lines between science and madness. Deep in the Foundation's sublevels, hidden from the sun-kissed surface, she pioneered wormhole tech powered by Cosmog's raw energy, capturing these interdimensional beasts not to protect Alola, but to bend them to her will. Vats hummed with bioluminescent fluids, where Nihilego's tentacles fused with human nerves, turning aids into puppets lost in hallucinatory bliss. Lusamine's own daughter Lily bore scars from one such trial, her fear a silent testament to the peril. The air grew thick with the scent of ozone and synthetic nectar, as scientists in white coats whispered of breakthroughs, while shadows lengthened into delirium. Lusamine's vision, a new family, remade in Ultraspace's image, where she could commune eternally with the beasts she adored. What began as noble rescue missions devolved into a hubris-fueled arms race against reality itself. Portals stabilized not for safety, but to flood her domain with more specimens, each arrival echoing with unearthly cries that seeped into dreams across the archipelago. Yet amid this frenzy loomed a greater shadow, one that eclipsed even the beast's rampage. Necrozma, the prism devourer, emerged not as an invader, but a harbinger of oblivion, its jagged black form a void that hungered for light across the multiverse. Forged in some primordial prism realm, it descended upon worlds like Alola's, siphoning the sun's glow until skies turned to perpetual dusk, cities flickering into cold silence. In Ultra Megalopolis, a desolate mirror of human ambition, Necrozma had already stripped its home bare, fusing with twisted Solgaleo and Lunala hybrids to become Ultra Necrozma, a winged apocalypse radiating stolen radiance. Warriors there, clad in armor etched with forgotten glyphs, wielded light weapons in futile rebellion, their beams swallowed whole. When it pierced Alola's veil, the theft accelerated. Features dimmed as Lusamine's portals funneled its appetite, grass wilting underfoot, Tapu Guardians roaring in futile defiance. Only by merging with Nebby's evolved power could you confront it, restoring the stolen blaze in a cataclysm of prismatic fury. Necrozma wasn't mere destruction. It embodied entropy's pull, a reminder that light itself, the lifeblood threading every timeline, from Sinnoh's creation myths to Unova's ideals, could be unraveled by a single, relentless void. These breaches didn't happen in isolation. Echoes rippled back to the multiverse fractures of Hoen's Delta episode, where Deoxys had first hinted at parallel incursions, and forward to threats yet unseen. Alola's skies, once painted by Nebby's gentle arcs, now scarred with flickering rifts, forced a reckoning. Was the Pokémon world a fragile bubble, or an infinite lattice pierced by ambition's folly? Lusamine's fall from grace, redeemed in fragments amid the gloom, underscored how close science teetered to summoning ends beyond comprehension. But these tales of dimensional peril gain even wilder layers when old stories get retold through fresh eyes. Up next, in remakes and the layered narrative, discover how revisiting Kanto or Yoto doesn't just echo the past. It rewires the entire chronology, stacking secrets that redefine everything we've explored so far. As the Aether Foundation's portals tore open rifts to ultraspace, unleashing those otherworldly beasts into our world, Pokemon's own developers began ripping similar holes in time, not through wormholes, but through remakes that flood ancient stories with elements from the future. Fire Red and Heart Gold stand as bold declarations of revisionist history, where the core events of Kanto and Johto don't just repeat. They evolve, rewritten with knowledge only later generations could provide. Consider Fire Red, released in the shadow of Hoenn's dual crises, yet thrusting you back into Kanto's familiar gyms and routes. The original Red and Blue games unfolded in a world locked to Generation 1 hardware. Their pixelated sprites marching across a monochrome Game Boy screen, battling Team Rocket's straightforward schemes without a whisper of deeper lore. But Fire Red transforms this into a historical revision of those same events. Suddenly, the Sevi Islands emerge from the sea, a chain of forgotten archipelagos teeming with new Pokémon like Crobat and Slugma, species that didn't exist when the originals shipped. Bill's tale expands too, revealing his kinship with Celio on those islands, forging wireless links across oceans that mirror the very connectivity of the Game Boy Advance era. It's as if the historians of Pallet Town unearthed lost scrolls, amending the record to include alliances and threats that were always there, just waiting for better tools to excavate them. This revision ripples through the timeline in ways that bind Kanto tighter to its simultaneous partner, Hoenn. Remember, these region stories play out in parallel, Red conquering the Indigo Plateau, while Brendan Ormay tames the Weather Titans, Groudon and Kyogre. Fire Red acknowledges this unseen overlap with subtle nods. The upgraded Pokédex now catalogues Hoenn natives, and post-game quests hint at cross-regional migrations. The player, once a lone badge collector in a simple linear march, now navigates a denser web of side stories, where Bill's S.S. and Voyage uncovers Rocket's global ambitions, long before Gold and Silver exposed them fully. These aren't add-ons, they're corrections, ensuring Kanto's history aligns with the broader chronicle emerging across the seas. Heart Gold takes this even further, recasting Johto's 3-year sequel as a gilded chronicle from the Diamond and Pearl Age. The originals, Gold, Silver, Crystal, arrived on the Game Boy Color, their real-time clock ticking through days and nights, breeding Pokémon in a world awakening to genders and eggs. Yet Heart Gold and Soul Silver, shimmering on dual-screened DS hardware, revise that saga with the sheen of Sinnoh's mythological grandeur. You chase the Rainbow Wing to Ho-Oh's summit, but now the legends feel alive in ways the originals only dreamed. The Pokéwalker lets your partner roam a physical world, syncing steps from your pocket to the digital wilds. Following Pokémon trail behind you on the overworld, their tiny forms evoking a living tapestry of bonds forged in later eras. Here, the inclusion of modern mechanics in past settings manifests as temporal bleeding, where future innovations seep into yesterday's battles. Johto's roots, once navigated in 2 dimensions, now boast the DS's touchscreen flair, HM moves dispensed via Pokétch-inspired devices, contests that layer performance arts over raw combat. Generation 4's physical special split bleeds into movesets, letting you strategize with types unknown to the Game Boy Color's blunt edges. Even the radio, crackling with Team Rocket broadcasts in the originals, upgrades to a full station with time-based signals, pulling Lugia's storm-tossed silhouette into sharper focus. It's bleeding from the future. Platinum's distortion world echoes in the embedded ruins of Alph puzzles, Sinnoh's underground mining vibes in the Pokeathlon stadiums. These aren't retrofits for convenience, they're narrative infusions, as if Johto scribes, armed with Arceus's creation myths, revisited their annals to embed the universe's deeper metaphysics. This temporal bleeding alters the player's experience of the same story as the hardware evolves, turning each replay into a palimpsest, a manuscript scraped clean and rewritten atop itself. On the original Game Boy, Kanto felt immediate urgent. 8 badges, Elite Four Gauntlet, Champion Showdown, all in grainy green monochrome, your rival a pixelated shadow in eternal pursuit. Fire Red on advanced hardware breathes colour into that rush. Vibrant sprites, linkage cables humming with trades to Ruby's shores, the Sevi saga extending the epilogue into weeks of exploration. The story hasn't changed. Lance still falls, Mewtwo lurks in cerulean depths, but the hardware's leap infuses it with Hoenn's double battles and abilities, making every encounter feel contemporaneous with parallel crises. Your victory of Giovanni, now echoing Team Magma's hubris. Shift to Heart Gold on the Nintendo DS, and Johto swells into an epic. The dual screens split your gaze. Map above, partner below, their animations syncing with your strides through Ecrutique's foggy nights. The hardware's microphone stirs the Unknown's ancient chamber. Its camera could summon events tied to real-world light. Battles pulse with faster animations, fourth-generation cries rumbling through speakers once silent. That same journey, Morty's fog-shrouded gym, Claire's dragon trials, the kimono girl's dance, now carries Sinnoh's weight, with Platinum's trainer rematches and Heart Gold exclusive legend quests. Your experience shifts from a brisk sequel to a reflective odyssey. The 3-year gap to Kanto now bridged by post-game invasions where Red awaits atop Silver Mountain. Is Silence a monument to the original's raw simplicity? These layers stack across hardware errors, each remake a lens refracting the core events through prisms of progress. The Game Boy's constraints birthed a pure, unadorned tale. Advance added connectivity's warmth, DS infused tactility and myth. Play Fire Red today on emulated Advance, and the wireless trade hums virtually. Boot Heart Gold on a 3DS, and augmented reality ghosts flicker in. The story endures. Rockets fall, legends rise, but your immersion deepens with every silicon evolution, the pixels gaining souls, the routes breathing history. It's why revisiting Koen Fire Red feels like uncovering suppressed chapters, Johto in Heart Gold like consulting illuminated manuscripts. Remakes complicate the timeline masterfully, their release generation status, weaving old events into new fabrics without displacing them. Fire Red slots into Hoenn's parallel flow, Heart Gold into Sinnoh's mythic dawn, yet both preserve the originals as canonical first drafts. This layered narrative echoes the world's own strata, glimpsing Galar's darkest day 3,000 years prior, ruins from 1,500 years before Generation 1 whispering of unknown scribes. Each remake bleeds forward, ensuring the player's path through gym badges and legend hunts accrues revelations. Environmental scars like Farfetch overhunting, trees in Lavere predating Kalos wars, building a palimpsest where past and future converse. In this ever-revising chronicle, the hardware's march mirrors the world's metaphysical unfolding. From Arceus's alpha spark through Unova's schisms, mega timelines, Nebby's intimate divinity, ultra incursions, you've chased those threads across dimensions. But now they coil back on themselves in these remakes, demanding you question what original truly means. And this tangled revisionism pulls us into Chapter 18, the Jasmine Paradox. A quiet gym leader's offhand remark from Olivine City that could shatter the synchronization between Johto and Sinnoh forever. What single line dares challenge 3 years of established history? Stay with us to uncover it. This temporal bleeding doesn't just warp mechanics across errors. It pulls living legends right into the heart of distant regions, like a quiet ripple across the Pokémon world's vast ocean. Take Jasmine, the serene steel-type gym leader from Olivine City in Johto, whose subtle cameo in Sinnoh exposes one of the timeline's most tantalizing knots. You remember her from Gold, Silver, and their Heart Gold and Soul Silver echoes. That soft-spoken woman with her Magnemite hovering like loyal sentinels, guarding the lighthouse where Ampharos's beam cuts through Johto's foggy nights. She's no brash battler. Her gym pulses with the cool precision of steel, her Magnezone and Steelix forged in the fires of quiet determination. But after you claim her badge, she vanishes on a personal quest. Her beloved Steelix falls ill, and no Johto remedy suffices. She whispers of sailing far away, chasing whispers of a cure from foreign shores. That voyage sets her adrift into the steel-grey waves of uncertainty. Fast forward to the frosted peaks and bustling ports of Sinnoh, where Diamond Pearl, and Platinum unfold their cosmic saga. There she stands, unannounced, on the sun-drenched boardwalk of Sunny Shore City, Steelix coiled at her side, fully healed and gleaming. She's vacationing now, eyes bright with relief, chatting with you about the city's generator woes and the raw power humming beneath its streets. Her presence feels like a gift from the developers, a nod to faithful players, but peel back the dialogue, and the cracks in the chronology widen. Jasmine remarks how she's been travelling for some time, savouring Sinnoh's chill winds after her ordeal. Yet Cynthia, the region's radiant champion, greets her with familiar warmth, as if they've crossed paths before on these very sands. Cynthia even hints at Jasmine's reputation preceding her, that steel-type mastery echoing from Johto's distant capes. This intimacy clashes head-on with the established flow. Johto's tale spins 3 years after Kanto's League triumphs, a direct sequel where the world has aged just enough for new threats to rise. Sinnoh, though, probes the universe's birth with Dialga's Roar and Palkia's Void. Events that scream ancient precedents, yet Jasmine's fresh vacation suggests her the Johto crisis unfolded mere months prior, not years in the rear view. Here's the paradox sharpening into view. If Generation 4 trails Generation 2, why does Jasmine speak as if her Steelix healed overnight, her journey a recent exhale, heart gold and soul silver? Those layered revisions we just unpacked reinforce her departure as a post-league pivot. Right, after you've toppled the Elite Four in Blackthorn's icy lair, but in Sinnoh, no scars of time linger. She's rejuvenated, unburdened, as if Johto's events ripple sideways, not forward. Some lore scholars argue Generation 4 slots concurrent with Johto's prime, Jasmine's ship docking in Sunnyshore, while gold and silver heroes still chase Ho-Oh's rainbow feathers. Others flip it. Sinnoh first, Johto's 3-year gap, bridging to a future where Steelix's ailment stems from Sinnoh's mineral-rich depths. The conflicting dialogue leaves us suspended. Cynthia's knowing smile implies shared history, yet Jasmine's light tone denies any grand elapsed epoch. It's a timeline tether, fraying at the edges, forcing us to question if these regions pulse in parallel currents, their celebrities drifting like migratory wingull between storms. Tracking the Johto gym leader Jasmine's appearance in the Sinnoh region reveals more than a healer's holiday. It spotlights how the Pokémon world stitches its elite into a global tapestry. Gym leaders aren't provincial relics, they're regional celebrities, their fame carried on trade winds and passenger ships. Jasmine isn't alone in her wanderlust. Look at Lieutenant Surge, Kanto's thunderous war vet, name-dropped in Unova's crowds with tales of his electric legacy, or Misty, splashing through Hoenn cameos, her water affinity drawing her to seaside skirmishes. These crossovers whisper of a bustling inter-regional elite circuit. Conferences in hidden ports, battles under foreign stars, bonds forged over shared badges and midnight strategies. What these cameos reveal about the interconnectedness of regional celebrities is profound. They're the human glue binding the fractured timeline. While legendaries clash in mythic isolation, these trainers embody mobility, their stories bleeding across maps like ink on wet parchment. Jasmine's Sinnoh stroll humanizes the paradox. Her Steelix, once felled by mystery poison, now basks in foreign sunlight, a testament to remedies swapped between alchemists from Olivine to Aureburg. It suggests a world where gym badges aren't just metal trophies but passports, where Olivine's lighthouse beam might one day signal Sunnyshore's silhouette on the horizon. This web of wanderers hints at off-screen lives. Perhaps Jasmine consulted Rock on mining ores for her steel heart, or traded tips with Byron on tempering metal with Sinnoh's rugged grit. The paradox deepens when you linger on the ports themselves. Sunnyshore's massive generator, a marvel of human ingenuity mirroring Jasmine's affinity for mechanical precision. She lingers there, offering battle advice, her voice a calm anchor amid the city's electric hum. But rewind to Johto's SS Aqua, that swaying ferry from Vermilion to Olivine, and you sense the routes converging. Kanto to Johto, Johto to Sinnoh, a chain of voyages stitching the seas. The conflicting words, Cynthia's easy camaraderie, Jasmine's breezy recovery don't shatter the lore. They enrich it, painting a chronology flexible as a metang's arms, bending to accommodate lives in motion. As we untangle these threads, the spotlight shifts to those who thrive in the shadows of such serene figures. The cunning minds who twist ambitions into chaos, evolving with every generational tide. Next time, in the evolution of antagonists, we'll trace how these forces reshape from petty thieves to world unmakers. Their schemes bleeding deeper into the heart of every region. Drift toward that revelation now, as Jasmine's waves carry us onward. Those conflicting words from Jasmine, echoing across the steel-grey waves between Johto and Sinnoh, remind us how the Pokémon world's timeline refuses to stay neatly pinned down. But if you peer deeper into the shadows cast by these events, you'll find the true pulse of that chronology beating in the hearts of the villains themselves. Team Rocket's grunts, skulking through the underbelly of Kanto with their black uniforms and sneers, mark the starting point, a syndicate built on cold, calculated greed. Back in the original days of Kanto, when the air hummed with the thrill of your first badge collection, Team Rocket operated like a criminal empire, straight out of a noir film. Giovanni, their stone-faced boss, orchestrated heists on Pokémon centers and power plants, snatching rare beasts not for some grand philosophy, but for profit. Persian at his side, he'd flood the markets with stolen goods, turning Pikachu into currency and Mewtwo into a weapon of dominance. It was organized crime at its rawest. No frills, no delusions of grandeur, just theft on an industrial scale. You could almost smell the smog from Sylph Co. as they muscled in, lasers firing, elevators grinding to a halt under their boots. 3 years later, as Johto's golden fields and misty towers rose in the sequels, Team Rocket tried clawing back relevance. Their radio tower takeover felt desperate, a faded echo of Kanto's glory, with executives like Ariana and Proton barking orders amid sparking machinery. Yet even here, cracks showed. Their motives still boiled down to black market dealings, but whispers of betrayal and internal rot hinted at fractures in their profit-driven machine. The world had grown, and so had the shadows they cast. Hoenn's stormy shores brought a seismic shift. Team Aqua and Team Magma, drenched in rain or scorched by lava, weren't content with mere theft. Archie dreamed of endless oceans swallowing continents, awakening Cougar to drown the land in primal fury. Maxi, glasses fogged by volcanic heat, sought Groudon's rage to expand the earth itself. Profit forgotten. These were zealots chasing geological apocalypse, their hideouts carved into seabeds and craters, subs humming, and meteorites glowing with forbidden energy. Depending on your game, one team played hero to the other's villain, flipping alliances like crashing waves, reflecting how Hoenn's narrative tangled morality in the salt spray. Sinnoh's frozen peaks and distorted dimensions elevated the stakes further. Cyrus of Team Galactic stood in his stark command center, red hair stark against screens flickering with star maps. He didn't want money or territory, he craved silence. A new universe, purged of human emotions chaos, born from Dialga and Palkia's collision at the Spear Pillar, where space-time warped like shattered glass. His grunts in sleek spacesuits unleashed Weavile and Bronzong mid howling blizzards, all to shatter reality for a emotionless perfection. The distortion world loomed as Giratina's realm, a mirror to his fractured soul. Problems no longer local but cosmic. Unova's towering skyscrapers and moral mazes pushed villains into philosophical territory. Team Plasma, cloaked in white like false prophets, preached liberation under N's haunting flute and Ghetsis' serpentine lies. Reshiram and Zekrom weren't tools for theft, but symbols of truth and ideals twisted into control. Estelia's neon lights buzzed as they paraded stolen Pokémon, only to reveal the con. A world remade under their iron rule. Dragons roaring over bridges where heroes questioned their own path. Ambition festered here, mirroring a society bloated with ideals gone sour. By Kalos's elegant boulevards and war-torn history, the evolution peaked with Team Flare. Lysandre, charismatic in his tailored suit, gazed from his prism tower at a world he deemed ugly, stained by overpopulation and strife. Beauty demanded sacrifice. The ultimate weapon, a light to erase all but the worthy, invoking Zygarde's balance in catastrophic glow. From the organized crime of Team Rocket to the cult-like zealotry of Team Flare, this was no accident. The shift from stealing Pokémon for profit to reshaping the world for beauty or silence captured a profound change. As each generation layered new crises onto the Pokémon realm, these antagonists didn't just oppose you, they embodied the world's escalating woes. Kanto's simple theft spoke to urban exploitation, Pokémon reduced to commodities in a booming economy. Owen's eco-wars mirrored real clashes over land and sea, primal forces clashing as humanity encroached. Galactic's void hunger reflected existential dread, the fear that creation itself might need rebooting amid Sinnoh's ancient myths. Plasma probed the ethics of captivity, truths and ideals fracturing in Unova's melting pot. Flare's aesthetic purge tackled overpopulation and vanity, Kalos's glittering surface hiding scars from a forgotten war. Their motives grew ever more intricate, pulling from the timeline's depths. The darkest days echoes 3,000 years prior, Azid's immortality born of loss, ruins whispering of overhunting and lost balances. Villains became prisms for the Pokémon universe's growing complexity, their schemes intertwining with legendaries like threads in a vast tapestry. You can feel it in the remakes too, where Firered's rocket hides in modernized towers, or Omega Ruby's magma stirs with Mega Evolution's fire, past crimes bleeding into sharper forms, timelines layering like Hoenn submerged relics. Even Jasmine's Sinnoh detour underscores this. Her Steelix quakes hint at the threats that span eras, villains whose ambitions ripple across regions and years. As these shadows lengthen, one ancient secret waits in the roots of Kalos itself. Chapter 20. The hidden history of the Kalos tree uncovers what slumbers beneath Laver City's boughs, a growth from 1,500 years past that ties straight into Azid's gaze on the darkest day. Drift toward that revelation now, and let the world's buried truths pull you under. I hope you're as amazed by this as I am. If you want to stay updated on more content like this, make sure to subscribe and join our community of curious minds. Trust me, what's coming next will challenge everything you thought you knew. Team Flare's vision of a beautiful new world wasn't born in a vacuum. It echoed the scars of Kalos's ancient past, where ambition twisted into catastrophe. Lysandra drew inspiration from a war fought 3,000 years ago, a conflict so devastating it awakened Veltal itself. But beneath Laver City's shimmering canopy, another secret pulses quietly, a colossal tree that defines the city, its roots drinking deep from energies no human hand could plant. This tree didn't sprout overnight. Over 1,500 years, it rose slowly, branch by branch, leaf by leaf, until it cradled an entire community within its embrace. Laver's residents built their homes around it, weaving streets and shops into its lower limbs, as if the tree were the heartbeat of the place. What makes it extraordinary, though, lies in its bond with fairy-type energy. You can feel it if you linger there. The air hums with a delicate, iridescent glow, like sunlight filtered through prism flowers. Fairy types thrive in its shadow, spritzy drifting on perfumed breezes, aromatase weaving illusions from pollen that dances like forgotten dreams. This isn't coincidence. The tree absorbed that energy over centuries, channeling it from the soil, the mist, the very wisps of the wind. It's a living conduit where fairy essence, playful yet profound, deceptive in its fragility, takes root and flourishes. Walk the winding paths of Laver Nature Trail, and you'll sense it too. The forest floor is carpeted in glowing mushrooms and vines that twist like enchanted ribbons. Trainers battle here, but something lingers from far older clashes. The environment itself stores the memory of ancient Pokémon battles, not in stone tablets or dusty scrolls, but etched into the bark, the undergrowth, the flow of sap. Picture massive clashes eons ago. Beams of raw power scorching the earth, psychic waves rippling through the canopy, spectral forms clashing in mid-air. Those echoes don't fade. They seep into the ground, nourish the roots, emerge as subtle auras that influence every Pokémon that passes through. A wild Sylveon might curl protectively around a trainer it just met, its ribbons pulsing with unearned loyalty. Loyalty borrowed from battles long buried, or a battle against a feral Gudra, its gooey defenses hardening not from training, but from residual shields flung up in prehistoric duels. The land remembers. It replays those moments in faint shimmers, guiding evolutions, shaping temperaments, turning the forest into a silent archive of violence transmuted into grace. This memory ties directly to the tree's slow ascension. 1,500 years ago, as Kalos healed from its own wounds, the earth here began to knit itself anew. Fairy-type energy, elusive and tied to emotion, found perfect harbour in the growing trunk. It amplified those stored battles, softening their fury into something ethereal. Clefairy perched on branches that hadn't yet thickened, their moonlit songs harmonizing with phantom roars from the past. Whimsicott floated through the saplings, scattering cotton spores that carried whispers of triumph and loss. The tree grew not just taller, but wiser, its wood veined with that power, repelling decay, inviting symbiosis. Today, when a Deden sparks along its roots, or a Flabébé perch on a twig, they're tapping into a continuum, a 1,500-year tapestry where fairy magic preserves what brute force destroyed. At the heart of this cycle stand Xerneas and Yveltal, the eternal dancers of life and destruction. Xerneas, the radiant stag, pours vitality into the world, its horns branching like the tree itself, igniting growth from barren soil. It bestows life not as a gift but as a surge, antlers glowing azure, roots exploding upward in verdant fury. Yveltal counters with wings of crimson shadow, draining essence to prevent stagnation, folding existence back into the void so renewal can begin anew. Their role isn't opposition, it's balance. In Kalos's lore, Yveltal once absorbed the life of an entire army during that ancient war, its form swelling until it petrified into cocoon form, a slumbering monument. Xerneas awakened to restore what was taken, seeding forests that would one day include Laverre's giant. The tree embodies their rhythm, destruction's ashes fueling life's quiet climb, battle memories stored not to haunt, but to evolve. Fairy energy bridges them, light and whimsical on the surface, yet profound in its mimicry of creation's pulse. Illusions that heal, charms that resurrect. Delve deeper into Laverre's lore, and you'll find hints in the Pokémon themselves. The Kalos region's introduction of fairy types coincided with this revelation. As if Game Freak unearthed a deliberate thread, Sylveon's ribbons aren't mere decoration. They sense emotional imprints, pulling from the environment's archived pain to forge bonds unbreakable. Aromatice brews essences that soothe modern wounds by echoing ancient recoveries. Even the Senishaper Pokémon, like Vivillon's patterns, shift subtly near the tree, mimicking battle formations lost to time. Trainers who've spent nights there report dreams of clashing titans, hooves thundering, wings blotting the sky. Not nightmares, but visions that sharpen their strategies upon waking. This hidden history reveals Kalos not as a fresh start in Generation 6, but a layer atop millennia of resonance. The tree stands as proof. 1,500 years of growth, infused with fairy-type energy, cradling the environment's indelible memory of ancient Pokémon battles. And through Xerneas and Yveltal, it cycles eternally. Life blooming from destruction, destruction pruning for life's return. Feel that hum in your mind as you listen. The forest breathing steady, inviting rest amid its secrets. As these patterns of revival echo across regions, they lead us straight into Chapter 21. The paradox of the fossil Pokémon, where bones from eons past refuse to stay buried, challenging everything we assume about time's unyielding march. Those ancient battles etched into the Kalos tree's rings whisper of a world long faded, where Pokémon clashed in ways that shaped the soil itself. But what if we could pull those lost creatures straight from the earth, breathing life into bones that crumbled millennia ago? Fossil Pokémon stand at the heart of that temptation, revived across every generation, Yet they carry a paradox that unravels the very fabric of Pokémon paleontology. From the earliest days in Kanto, scientists unearthed relics like the dome fossil and helix fossil, hauling them to Cinnabar Gym's basement laboratory. There, under the glow of flickering screens, a machine hummed to life, stitching DNA from fragmented remains into viable Pokémon. Omanite swirled from the sea's abyss, Kabuto scuttled across sandy shores, both species extinct for eons, or so the lore insists. You can almost hear the geothermal vents of Cinnabar rumbling as the revival chamber sparks, pulling Aerodactyl from amber-trapped skies, where it once ruled with savage wings. These weren't mere pets. They were echoes of a primordial era, thrust into a modern world of Pokeballs and gym challenges. Yoto refined the process, with the ruins of Alph hiding unowned scripts that hinted at even older extinctions, while the Pokémon Laboratory in Pewter City, wait no, that was Kanta's Echo, kept the revival tech alive. By Sinnoh's time, the Auberg Mining Museum displayed cranial fragments, tempting trainers to revive Anorith and Lileep from Devonian depths, creatures that predated human history by hundreds of millions of years in our own paleontology, mirrored eerily in Pokemon's timeline. Unova's Nakreen City Museum showcased cover fossil and plume fossil, birthing Tirtuga and Archon, ancient turtles and birds that swam and soared before continents shifted. Kalos added Amora and Tyrant from Sail and Jaw fossils, Ice Age behemoths frozen in time, and Alola. It twisted the formula with the Ultra Necrozma crisis, blurring revival with interdimensional rifts. But the fossils persisted underground. Yet here's the fracture. Every generation's revival tech promises purity, but delivers something profane. The ethical weight presses down like sediment layers. Are we trainers, or grave robbers desecrating the dead? Reviving extinct species disrupts ecosystems in ways no Pokédex entry warns about. Imagine Aerodactyl shattering modern skies, its supersonic dives, scattering Pidgey flocks that evolved without such predators. Omanite's ink clouds could choke coastal waters, outcompeting contemporary shellfish Pokémon for resources. Scientists across Kanto to Galar grapple with this. Should we hoard these relics in museums, or unleash them on a world that's moved on? The moral quandary deepens when you consider sentience. Do these revived Pokémon remember their extinction? A collective trauma encoded in their genes. Kabuto's compound eyes might flicker with flashes of cataclysmic waves that drowned their kind, forcing them into eternal servitude. Science fares no better under scrutiny. DNA degrades over time. No fossil should yield a perfect organism. Early gens glossed this with cartoonish machines, but the implications fester. What if the revival process splices in contaminants, creating hybrids unfit for survival? Cross-generational revivals compound the issue. Kanto's tech informs Hoenn's, which bleeds into Galar's labs, each iteration less precise, more desperate. And then Galar arrives, shattering the illusion entirely. In the Galar region's fossil den, nestled in the Isle of Armor, the air hangs thick with the scent of damp earth and ozone from malfunctioning revival pods. Here, paleontologists don't revive whole fossils. They fragment them. Bird, drake, fish, root, claw, armor. These mismatched parts from 5 ancient skeletons get combined at random, birthing monstrosities like Dracozolt, a hulking dragon torso grafted to stubby dino legs, forever doomed to crawl despite its electric fury. Arctozolt shivers on mismatched limbs, its woolly mammoth body sparking futilely. How the Galar region's mismatched fossils reveal a dark side of Pokémon paleontology becomes chillingly clear. This isn't resurrection, it's vivisection. Digging teams raid the dens, stripping viable fossils for parts, discarding the rest like quarry waste. The game's own lore admits these creatures hail from the age of fossils, but the combos suggest hasty, unethical science, perhaps a black market trade in parts to maximize profit or, worse, experiments to weaponize extinct DNA against Dynamax threats. Trainers witness the horror firsthand. These patchwork Pokémon collapse mid-battle, their bodies rejecting the splice, limbs twitching in agony before faint. Galar's post-Darkest Day society scarred by Eternatus' rampage 3,000 years prior, turns to these abominations for power, ignoring the screams encoded in their roars. It's a grim satire on real-world de-extinction debates. Should we Jurassic Park our way to dominance, or let the past lie buried? The mismatched fossils expose paleontology's underbelly. Greed masquerading as discovery, where revival means playing God with scissors and revival fluid. This leads us to the abyss before it all. The mystery of what the world looked like before the great extinction events. Pokémon lore scatters clues like bone shards. 3,000 years ago, the darkest day painted Galar in eternal night, dynamaxing hordes into rampaging giants until Zacian and Zamazenta cleaved the storm. But that's recent. True fossil eras stretch back further. Azid from Kalos, who wandered eternally after losing his Floette, claims to have seen skies filled with winged behemoths before his own war, 1,500 years before Generation 6. The ruins of Alf, built around the same epoch, murmur of Unknown scripting a pre-human world where Pokémon ruled unchallenged, no trainers to bind them. Envision crimson deserts where tyrant herds thundered under aerodactyl swarms, oceans teeming with Relican schools flanked by Kabuto predators. Vast tundras where mammoth-like woolly rhinos, echoed in Galar's fossils, grazed beside proto-fairy blooms tied to Kalas's ancient tree. No great war yet, no AZ's ultimate weapon, just raw Darwinian fury. What cataclysm ended it? Volcanic mega-eruptions, meteor strikes akin to those theorized for our dinosaurs, or Pokemon-induced apocalypses, like an ancestral Mewtwo unleashing psychic tempests. The fossils don't say. They roar fragments revived only to hint at the void. These paradoxes ripple through the timeline we've traced. Kanto and Hoenn parallel, Johto 3 years later, Sinnoh overlapping, all built on a foundation of unearthed bones. Reviving the extinct doesn't just challenge ethics and science, it rewrites history, layer by unstable layer. As these fossil ghosts claw toward the present, whispers emerge of international oversight gone awry. Coming up in Chapter 22, the influence of Looker and the international police. You'll uncover how one detective's shadow network polices these very revivals, and why their failures might unleash something far worse than mismatched limbs. While trainers debate the morality of piecing together prehistoric bones in dusty Galar labs, where mismatched fossils hint at experiments gone wrong, a far more elusive guardian watches from the shadows. The international police, an organization shrouded in mystery, steps in where regional authorities falter, waging a silent campaign against threats that span continents. Looker first emerges in the frosty peaks of Sinnoh, a trench-coated figure with a mustache that seems to carry the weight of unseen battles. In the Platinum Games, he arrives unannounced in Jubilife City, pulling you aside with urgent whispers about Team Galactic's cosmic ambitions. He's not there for the League's spotlight. He's hunting Cyrus's distortions in the fabric of reality itself, Dialga and Palkia hanging like storm clouds over his investigation. You glimpse him slipping through back alleys in Veilstone, interrogating grunts who scatter like shadows at dusk, his notebook filling with clues that never make the headlines. By the time he vanishes into the distortion world, pursuing Giratina's rift, you've sensed it. This man operates on a plane where Pokémon legends collide with human schemes, all while the world sleeps unaware. Years drift by in the Pokémon timeline, and Looker resurfaces in Unova's gleaming skyscrapers, the air thick with the hum of progress masking deeper unrest. Black and White pull you into his orbit in Nimbasa City, where he confides in you about Team Plasma's facade of liberation. He's weary now, lines etched deeper around his eyes, but his resolve burns steady as he dismantles their operation from the inside. Picture him in the shadows of the cold storage, eavesdropping on Ghetsis' rants, or tailing the Shadow Triad through Mistralton's foggy outskirts. N and the dragons Reshiram and Zekrom dominate the narrative, yet Looker threads the needle, exposing how Plasma's ideals twist into weapons. He fades again after the castle's collapse, but not before hinting at a web connecting Unova's turmoil to older sins. Rocket's echoes perhaps, or Galactic's lingering static. Kalos calls him next, where the region's eternal beauty conceals a war over ultimate weapons. In X and Y, Looker runs a detective agency in Lumio City, his office a cluttered haven of case files and flickering neon. He enlists you directly, his voice gravelly with fatigue as he unveils Team Flair's Lysandre and the looming shadow of AZ's ancient grudge. You join him in the depths of Geosenge, dodging Lysandre's elite through red-flanked hideouts, the air heavy with the scent of scorched earth and ambition. Lysandre's vision of pruned perfection crumbles under Looker's relentless pursuit, intertwined with the fairy type's blooming power and Yveltal's apocalyptic wings. Yet even in victory, Looker slips away, murmuring about bigger storms brewing across the sea, whispers of ultra wormholes flickering in his notes. Alola's tropical haze finally reveals the full scope of his odyssey. Sun and moon place him amid the island's laid-back rhythm, partnering with the enigmatic Nanu of the Ether Foundation's underbelly. No longer the lone wolf, he's in bed, his coat rumpled by humid winds, as he navigates Team Skull's graffiti-strewn streets and Aether Paradise's sterile labs. Lucamine's obsession with ultra beasts drags him into wormhole chaos, where Nihilago's tentacles pulse with otherworldly venom. You see him coordinating with Haoli's undercover networks, his mustache twitching as he defices patterns in the falls from the sky. Humans tumbling through rifts, emerging blank-eyed on Alolan shores. These lost souls, dubbed followers by those in the know, fuel one of the Pokémon world's most haunting theories. Imagine them, ordinary people from distant worlds or fractured timelines, yanked through unstable ultra wormholes by the raw force of Solgaleo or Lunala. They wash up disoriented, memories shredded like paper in a gale, blending into society as amnesiac wanderers. Some whisper that characters like Gladion or even Lily bear the marks. Haunted eyes, unexplained knowledge of beasts beyond the veil. Looker's Alolan stint ties directly here. His investigations into Aether's portals uncover Fala's trails, their fragmented tales hinting at multiversal incursions. Are they refugees, spies, or harbingers of invasions yet to come? The international police hoards these files, piecing together how wormholes scar the Pokémon world's edges, much like fossil revivals unearth buried perils. This is the secret war Looker embodies. A global chessboard where criminal syndicates like Rocket, Galactic, Plasma, Flare, and Aether skirmish for dominance, all while gym leaders and champions handle the visible fray. The international police strikes from the unseen, dismantling supply chains that snake from Kanto silos to Kalos's labs, intercepting legendary tainted artifacts before they ignite catastrophe. No parades for their victories, just quiet reports filed in windowless offices, the air thick with cigarette smoke and unspoken losses. Looker's path across Sinnoh's snows, Unova's bustle, Kalos's elegance, and Alola's waves paints him as their premier operative, a bridge between eras, ever chasing the next rift. As these threads pull tighter, they unravel toward the metaphysical foundations undergirding it all. The unseen laws binding Pokémon existence itself, where creation myths and wormhole echoes converge in ways that will leave you questioning every legend you've chased. Looker's pursuit of those enigmatic followers. Humans tumbling through ultra wormholes, their memories shattered like glass. Hints at a Pokémon world far more vast and strange than any police report could capture. These interdimensional travelers remind us that the fabric of reality here bends in ways our trainers rarely question, pulling us toward the deeper truth. Pokémon aren't just creatures caught in Pokeballs. They're the building blocks of an evolving metaphysics, where each generation peels back another layer of the universe's hidden rules. Consider Kanto in Generation 1, where everything begins with the raw pulse of biology. Pokémon roam as wild animals, their evolutions triggered by stones or levels. Simple adaptations in a world of gyms and badges. You battle Pidgey in the tall grass. Watch Charmander's tail flame flicker against the night, and it feels grounded, almost earthly, like a safari where the beasts fight back. No grand philosophies yet, just survival and training, the physics limited to claws, fire, and the thrill of a critical hit. But even then, seeds of wonder stir. Mewtwo's origin in a lab whispers of artificial life, a first crack in the natural order. 3 years pass, and Johto in Generation 2 shifts the ground beneath your feet. Now Pokémon have genders. They breed in daycares, passing down moves and natures like inherited traits. Sudowoodo mimics a tree until you water it. Farfetch dwindles from overhunting a millennium and a half earlier, tying the present to ancient ecology. The real-time clock ticks forward, syncing the world's rhythm to yours. Oo rises from the Tin Tower's ashes. Lugia guards the sea's whirlpools. Legendaries no longer distant prizes, but guardians woven into the land's memory. Biology deepens into genetics, inheritance shaping destinies, as if the Pokédex itself is evolving from field notes to a family tree. Owen unfolds alongside Kanto, simultaneous in time, yet it sees churn with primal forces. Groudon and Kyogre clash in eternal drought and flood, forces predating human cities, their weather control rewriting the planet's atmosphere. Rayquaza coils above the ozone, mediator of land and sea. 135 new species emerge, but the narrative coils tighter. Team Magma and Aqua flip roles between games, antagonists are lying or clashing with you. Fossils revive armoured behemoths. Ruins from 1500 years past hum with unknown script. The biology genetics axis strains against something larger. Pokémon as elemental engines driving the world's breath. Then Sinnoh arrives, roughly concurrent with Johto's timeline, despite the whispers of conflict in Jasmine's words, or Cynthia's lore. Here the physics fractures into cosmic law. Dialga commands time itself, its roars echoing through Platinum's distorted dimensions. Palkia warps space, folding the spear pillar into infinities. Giratina haunts the distortion world, exile of antimatter. Arceus, the mythical alpha, births creation from its 1,000 arms, plates shifting types like universal constants. The ruins of Alph, Solace and Tanabe, all 1500 years old. Pulse with puzzles unlocking this origin myth. Pokémon transcend flesh, their axioms, the equations holding stars and souls intact. Unova builds on this a few years later. Reshiram and Zekrom as twin dragons of truth and ideals. Their rivalry a philosophical forge. Ambition tempts with world remaking. Team Plasma's ideals masking conquest. Pokémon embody purpose now, not just power. Alola's Nebby evolves into Solgaleo or Lunala through your shared trials. Ultra beasts bleeding through wormholes like Lucca's Follers. Galar echoes 3,000 years back to the darkest day. Eternatus's Black Storm dynamaxing horrors, until Zacian and Zamazenta seal it with rusted swords and shields. Each generation adds a layer to the physics of this world, stacking rules upon rules. Generation 1 lays basic biology, Pokémon as animals in ecosystems of battle. Generation 2 introduces genetics, breeding and inheritance threading family lines through time. By Generation 4 it's cosmic law, creation trios dictating time, space and the void. The transition unfolds seamlessly. From beasts in the wild to metaphysical entities, legendaries evolving from colourful bosses to architects of reality. Remakes layer it further. Fire Red and Leaf Green retell Kanto amid Hoenn storms. Art Gold and Soul Silver revisit Johto under Sinnoh's gaze, each pass revealing how the timeline folds. History not linear but a spiral deepening the metaphysical core. Aids, wandering Kalos from that Galar cataclysm 3,000 years prior, carries the weight of immortality, his floating castle a relic of war and revival. The Levair tree, grown over 1,500 years, roots in fairy energy, storing echoes of battles long faded. Fossil Pokémon, mismatched in Galar's pits, question revival's morality across eras. Antagonists morph from Rocket's thefts to Flair's beauty cults, mirroring this ascent. Prophet to apocalypse, grounded greed to godlike redesign. This metaphysical ladder climbs through every Pokédex entry, every ruin's glyph, every legend's roar. Pokémon cease being capturable wildlife. They become the world's syntax. Syntax we trainers glimpse in flashes of type advantage or mega evolutions burst. As these foundations solidify, one figure stands at the pinnacle, overseeing it all, the champion, whose role binds every layer from biology's brawl to cosmic decree. In Chapter 24, The Role of the Champion, we'll uncover how they don't just win leagues, but anchor the metaphysics itself, their victories echoing through timelines in ways that will keep you listening just a little longer. As those cosmic laws from Sinnoh's creation trio ripple outward through the generations, binding biology to the stars themselves, one figure steps forward to enforce them in the mortal realm, the champion. In the earliest days of Kanto, that title felt like the ultimate prize, a glittering endpoint dangling just beyond the Elite Four's shadowed chamber. But peel back the layers, and you'll find it carrying the weight of an entire region's fragile order. Think of Blue, the rival who claws his way to the top in those original Kanto adventures. Fresh-faced and brash, he struts into the champion's seat with a smirk, treating it like a personal trophy rack for his ego. Smell ya later, he tosses out, as if unbeatable strength is just another gadget to flaunt, a badge pinned to his jacket amid the Pokémon League's sterile glow. His arrogance pulses through every rematch, a cocky reminder that victory is his birthright, not a duty. The world around him, Team Rocket's schemes fizzle out, gyms stand firm, and the champion's role stays simple. A goalpost for ambitious kids like you, the player, to chase through Viridian's misty paths and cerulean caves' dripping echoes. Yet fast forward just 3 years to Yoto, and the air thickens with consequence. Gold, silver, crystal. These games unfold in the shadow of Kanto's fresh scars, where Lance now wears the champion's cape not as a boast, but as a vigilant watch over 2 intertwined lands. The title evolves here, shedding its trophy shine for something heavier, a social anchor in a world where legends like Ho-Ho and Lugia stir from ancient towers, whispering of balances long disturbed. The champion isn't climbing anymore. They're holding the line, their Pokémon a bulwark against the slow creep of chaos that remakes could unravel. By the time Hoenn's seas churn in parallel with Kanto's streets, Ruby and Sapphire crashing against Fire Red and Leaf Green in the same breathless timeline, the champion's mantle deepens into outright guardianship. Steven Stone emerges from Devoncorp's steel heart, his Metagross gleaming like forged destiny, eyes fixed not on glory but on the primal clash of Groudon and Kyogre that could drown continents. Imagine the steam rising from submerged roots, the earth splitting under tectonic fury. The champion stands as the final sentinel, their victory over the Elite Four, sealing a pact with the land itself. No longer a mere goal, the title binds you to the people. The fishermen hauling warped catches from toxic waves, the elders in Slateport whispering of primordial floods. It's a social contract etched in badge metal, unbeatable not for pride, but to prevent the region's bones from cracking apart. This shift accelerates through Sinnoh's starry vale, where Cynthia pores over ancient tablets in Celestic Town, a Garchomp's roar echoing the creation trio's thunder. The champion here shoulders the metaphysics we traced last time. Dialga's relentless time, Palkia's warping space. Knowing one unchecked ambition could unspool the universe's thread. She's no arrogant upstart. Her battles carry the quiet gravity of someone who has seen ruins whisper of forgotten apocalypses. A role a solemn vow to guard against the void Giratina hungers for. Unova amplifies it further, Alder wandering the wilds with his Volcarona's embers, flickering like fading ideals. Haunted by the dragons Reshiram and Zekrom that embody truth and ambition's double edge, the champion becomes a wandering sage. Their strength a public trust amid N's revolutionary fervour, where reshaping the world tempts every shadowed corner. Then Alola's islands, with Hao's joyful grin masking the Ultra Beast's rifts, and Kukui's bare feet pounding lava-ridged sands, each champion a cultural pillar, their undefeated reign stitching together archipelago dreams against Nihilago's otherworldly venom. But nowhere does this evolution hit harder than in Galar, where Leon's crown gleams under stadium lights that drown out the crowd's roar. Compare him to Blue. That Kanto Kid's swagger now feels like a distant echo, a boy's game in the face of Leon's quiet torment. Unbeatable, they call him, and he wears it like chains forged in the darkest day's black storm, 3,000 years prior, when Eternatus's Dynamax frenzy nearly shattered the land. Leon's Charizard Gigantamaxes not for cheers, but to echo Zacian and Zamazenta's ancient stand. Is every title defense a ritual warding off collapse? Arrogance. Blue had that in spades, reveling in the spotlight's heat. Leon bears the burden. The endless interviews, the fans' expectant eyes, the knowledge that one loss could crack Galar's fragile morale, inviting Eternatus' shadow to rise again from Wyndon's spires. Across these generations, the champion transforms from a finish line into society's keel, steadying the ship through timeline's twists. Gen 1 and 3 pulse together, their champions parallel wards against rocket heists and aqua magma tsunamis. Gen 2's lance bridges to force Cynthia, their dragons coiling around shared threats. Even remakes layer this duty thicker. Omega Ruby Steven facing Primal reversion amid Leaf Green's familiar gyms, the title now a multiversal oath. They're the final guardian against regional collapse, the one who stares down not just trainers, but the metaphysical fractures. Fossil revivals gone wrong in Galar's mismatched bones, ultra wormholes spitting followers into Kalos streets, Azid's war-torn gaze from Kalos's tree-shrouded past. Feel the weight in Indigo Plateau's dim throne room, where spotlights carve Blue's silhouette into legend. Yet Leon paces Hammerlock Stadium under rainy skies, his cape sodden with unspoken dread. The champion's Pokémon don't just battle, they embody the social fabric. Pidgeot scouting horizons for rocket vans, Dragapult phasing through distortions to seal tears in reality. One falter and gyms crumble legends, rampage unchecked, the 3,000-year-old storm clouds gather anew. This mantle, once a spark for young dreams, now demands you become the region's heartbeat, pulsing against entropy's pull. And that leads us straight into chapter 25. The silent protagonist and the player's legacy, where we uncover what your quiet choices etch into this vast tapestry forever. Stick around because your shadow might outlast even the champions themselves, while champions like Blue and Leon bear the unending weight of their crowns, forever defined by that final battle you wage against them, you, yourself, the one who topples them. Slip away into the shadows of history, your name unspoken, your face unremembered. It's one of the quietest truths in the Pokémon world. The protagonist, that silent figure at the heart of every journey, vanishes from the records almost as soon as the credits roll. Think of the Kanto you conquer in red or blue. You thwart Team Rocket, claim the championship from Blue himself, and then nothing. No statues rise in your honor on the Indigo Plateau. No bards in Celadon City weave tales of your Pikachu's thunderous charge through Silphco. The world moves on. Gym leaders return to their posts. Professor Oak tends his lab, and your Pokédex sits gathering dust somewhere in Pallet Town. Why? Because you're not just a hero, you're the void where the story breathes. The games craft you as a blank slate, a vessel for every player who picks up the cartridge. Name yourself Red, Ash, or something utterly ordinary. It doesn't matter. The NPCs never utter your name. They cheer the new champion, a title that echoes briefly before fading. In this universe of eternal cycles, badges collected, legendaries awakened, crises averted. Your role is to ignite the change, not to linger in its aftermath. You disrupt the order, seal the rifts, and retreat, leaving the world to heal around the absence you leave behind. This erasure serves the law's deeper rhythm. Pokémon history unfolds in layers of myth and memory, where gods like Arceus shape creation, and ancient kings wield Zacian and Zamazenta against the darkest day, 3,000 years before Galar even dreams of stadiums. But human legends, they flicker like distant stars. Your silence ensures the timeline's fluidity. Generations overlap, Kanto and Hoenn pulsing in the same era, Yoto blooming 3 years after your Kanto triumph. Yet your deeds don't anchor too rigidly. If you dominated every chronicle, how could Gold or May step into their parallel crises without your shadow overwhelming theirs? Instead, you dissolve into the fabric, A ghost who topples Giovanni in Viridian Gym one moment, then wanders off-screen, perhaps breeding Pokémon in some forgotten route, or challenging the seas on your own terms. Yet, in those rare moments when the veil thins, past protagonists re-emerge not as mortals, but as legends etched into the stone of eternity. Red, the unspoken king of Kanto's tale, doesn't fade entirely. 3 years later, in Yoto's golden haze, whispers draw you to Mount Silver's frozen peaks. There, cloaked in silence atop the summit, he awaits, his Pikachu at his side, a team of raw power honed beyond mortal limits. No words pass his lips. He battles through actions alone, a living testament to that first journey's fire. Defeat him, and you claim his mantle, but he remains the eternal rival, the player who came before. Cynthia, Sinnoh's radiant champion, echoes this resurrection. In Platinum's distortion world, she strides back into the fray, her Garchomp's wings cutting through Giratina's chaos like a blade through fog. Later, in Unova's shadows and Kalos's ruins, she returns, consulting on ancient relics, her spiritomb whispering secrets of the underworld. She's no mere NPC, she's the player reborn, her legacy a bridge across regions, her knowledge of Dialga's time streams hinting at journeys that bent reality itself. Stephen Stone joins this exalted few, the Hoenn prodigy, whose steel heart once quelled Groudon and Kyogre's primal clash. In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, he reappears amid the remade skies, his Metagross gleaming as he delves into Devoncorp's deepest vaults, unraveling Mega Evolution's ties to infinity. These figures, Red's icy vigil, Cynthia's scholarly wanderings, Stephen's unyielding pursuit of stone and strength, stands anomalies. They transcend the fade, immortalized because their worlds demanded it. Red guards the timeline's edge against Yoto's encroachment. Cynthia weaves Sinnoh's creation myths into later eras. Stephen anchors Hoenn's parallel unfolding. But for every one of them, countless others. Your Unova avatar who shattered Team Plasma's ideals. Your Alola self who ushered Nebby into Solgaleo's light. Simply cease to be spoken of. They retire to quiet lives, perhaps as breeders in Laverre's fairy-haunted woods or researchers charting ultraspace's voids. Their Pokeballs heavy with unspoken victories. This pattern reveals the player as the fixed point amid the chaos. While timelines twist, Generation 4's Sinnoh clashing with Yoto's clockwork years, remakes layering new eras over old, the player endures as the constant thread. You are the one who pierces every paradox, the silent force threading Kanto's badge quest, through Unova's philosophical storms to Galar's Dynamax Coliseums. NPCs age, champions rise and fall, legendary slumber and rage anew, but the player, you persist, a nexus unbound by years or regions. Looker chases Falas across dimensions. Azed wanders Kalos's battle-scarred plains after 1500 years. Yet it's your hand that consistently tips the scales. In this labyrinth of simultaneous Hoenn-Kanto wars and fossil paradoxes, the player stabilizes the madness, an eternal you, whose legacy isn't in marble monuments, but in the world's unbroken pulse. These vanishing acts and legendary echoes set the stage for even wilder unravelings, where ancient Hisui's clashes rewrite what we thought we knew. Up next, Chapter 26, The Future of the Past. Hisui and beyond beckons with secrets that could shatter every timeline we've traced so far, while protagonists like Red or Stephen become whispered legends, fading into the mists of their regions. Cynthia stands apart in Sinnoh, her name etched into every challenger's memory, her presence a bridge between eras. Yet even she stands on foundations we barely glimpsed until Pokémon Legends. Arceus pulled back the veil on Hisui, the ancient heart of Sinnoh itself. Hisui wasn't the polished land of lakes and peaks you know from Diamond and Pearl. Picture vast, untamed wilds where blizzards howl across jagged mountains, and crimson rifts tear open the sky, spilling otherworldly beasts into the fray. This was Sinnoh, thousands of years ago, a frontier where humans scratched out survival in fragile settlements, always one rampage away from annihilation. Pokémon roamed as forces of nature, fierce, unpredictable, their eyes glowing with primal fury rather than the spark of companionship. You arrive as a lost traveler, thrust into this chaos, and immediately sense the fracture. Noble Pokémon, towering alphas revered and feared, command packs that sweep through villages like avalanches. A single alpha Garchomp could level homes with a single draconic roar, its scales armoured against any spear or trap. Humans didn't train these creatures, they hid from them, whispering prayers to spirits in the night, while blood stained the snow. This was the wild world before the partnership era began, a time when every encounter carried the weight of life or death, where trust was a myth and survival meant stealth or sacrifice. That fear pulsed through every heartbeat in Hisui. Villages like Jubilife huddled behind wooden palisades, scouts venturing out only with the bitter taste of dread. Pokémon weren't partners. They were predators or gods, their migrations carving scars into the earth. A stampede of Bidef might seem harmless now, but in Hisui, it heralded swarms of staraptors diving from storm clouds, talons outstretched. The air thrummed with tension, distant cries echoing like war drums, the ground trembling under the charge of stampeding herds. Humans learned to read the winds, to spot the flicker of eyes in the underbrush, because hesitation meant becoming another tale of woe carved into a memorial stone. And from that terror sprang the origin of the first Pokeballs, born not of whimsy but necessity. Craftsmen in Hisui's forges, their hands collused from endless toil, hollowed apricorns under lantern light, infusing them with the essence of captured stars. These weren't the sleek spheres of modern trainers. They were rough, primal orbs, stained with sap and sealed with urgent incantations. The fear humans once felt toward Pokémon drove this invention, a desperate bid to contain the uncontrollable, to bind a rampaging onyx before it crushed a harvest, or to snare a Luxray mid-prowl without losing half the militia. These early balls marked the fragile dawn of control, a shift from fleeing shadows to facing them head-on. You feel it in the game's every survey mission, the weight of stepping into the wilds, with nothing but a satchel of these volatile capsules. Success meant a momentary victory, a Pokémon subdued and carried back to the Diamond Clan or Pearl Clan's outposts. Failure, a reminder that the beasts still held the true power, their roars a symphony of the untamed. But Legends, Arceus doesn't just paint this brutal prelude, it recontextualizes the entire Sinnoh history you thought you knew. Those serene lakes in Diamond and Pearl, once battlegrounds where Volo's ambitions nearly unraveled time itself. Cynthia's tales of ancient lore, recited in her sunlit villa, now ring with the echo of real cataclysm. The space-time rift scars lingering in Mount Coronet, the noble Pokémon evolving into the guardians of myth. Arceus, the alpha Pokémon glimpsed only in whispers during Generation 4, steps forward here as the architect, its plate-shifting fury the spark that birthed Dialga, Palkia and Giratina. Suddenly, Barry's carefree races across Route 201 carry the shadow of Hisui's endless treks. The Distortion World, once an abstract abyss, pulses with the red glow of rifts that swallowed Survey Core whole. Even the everyday Pokémon centers rising from trading posts, where wounded returned with Pokéballs clutched like talismans. Hisui reveals Sinnoh not as a static region but a living chronicle, its modern harmony forged in blood and rift-born fire. The partnership era, that unspoken covenant between human and Pokémon, crystallized here amid the chaos, when a surveyor's persistence turned fear into alliance. Palkia's spatial dominion, once a philosophical puzzle in Platinum, now feels visceral, echoing the rifts that warped Hisui's skies and birthed paradoxes. Giratina's banishment from the world, a direct scar from Volo's hubris, rippling forward to haunt Barry's generation. Cynthia herself, descendant of ancient lines, embodies this evolution. Her calm authority a far cry from the clan leaders who bartered with nobles under threat of annihilation. This recontextualization runs deeper still. The red Garchomp that once terrified Hisui's fringes, its lineage snarls through every Sinnoh cave. The Celestica Trail, winding through peaks now dotted with trainers, was a path of peril, marked by the bones of the overbold. Legends. Arceus whispers that Sinnoh's mythology isn't fable, it's memory, preserved in the warp of time and the grit of those first balls. As these threads from Hisui weave into the present, pulling Sinnoh's scattered lore into sharp focus, you'll want to see how they knot with every other region. Up next, connecting the dots. The grand unified timeline reveals the master pattern, stitching generations into one unbreakable chronicle that will redefine everything you've heard so far. Hisui's untamed shadows, where humans first dared to partner with Pokémon amid relentless peril, don't stand alone in time. They're the raw beginning of a thread that stretches back 3,000 years and weaves forward through every region you've ever explored. That fragile alliance born in the ancient Hisuian wilds echoes a cataclysm even older, the darkest day that scorched Galar's skies when Eternatus unleashed its endless storm, forcing Pokémon into towering Dynamax forms that shook the earth. Two young heroes, swords in hand beside the wolves Zacian and Zamazenta, sealed the chaos and claimed thrones amid the rubble, their legend etched into Galar's bones. And watching from afar, across seas and shadows, was AZ, a man whose grief-fueled immortality would one day birth Kalus's ultimate weapon, tying that distant nightmare directly to the war-torn fields of Generation 6. From those blackened skies, time drifts forward 1,500 years to quieter ruins rising from the soil. In Yoto's misty valleys, the ruins of Alf take shape, their chambers whispering of unknown scripts that puzzle the mind like living riddles. Across distant waves in the Sevi Islands, the Tanobi ruins emerge, chambers humming with forgotten powers, while Sinnoh's Solucian ruins cradle ancient words beneath pastoral meadows. These aren't scattered relics. They're markers of a world healing, even as hunters decimate far-fetched flocks. They're leeks wielded in desperation, turning rarity into lore that lingers in Johto's markets to this day. Levair City's great tree in Kalos sprouts around the same shadowed era, its roots drinking deep from soil, still warm with history's weight. Fast forward through uncharted centuries, and Hisui's peril gives way to Sinnoh's fragile dawn, where the partnership era truly ignites. Dialga's steel heart ticks the rhythm of time itself, Alkia swells the fabric of space, and Giratina haunts the distortion world beyond. Kuritas, whose myths underpin every clock in Twinleaf Town and every star over Mount Coronet. This is no isolated genesis. It's the forge for Generation 4's Diamond and Pearl, where Cynthia pores over relics that scream of Hisui's frenzy. Yet even as Sinnoh stabilizes, parallel storms brew elsewhere. Kanto's badge quests and Team Rocket's schemes unfold in exact sync with Hoenn's primal clash. Red's Viridian triumph mirroring May or Brendan's watery showdowns as Groudon and Kyogre threaten to drown or scorch the land. Fire Red and Leaf Green, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. They layer the same moments across hardware eras, remakes breathing new life into events that happened side by side. Gym battles raging while legendaries slumber just horizons apart. 3 years slip by and Yoto awakens. Gold, Silver, Crystal, Heart Gold and Soul Silver carry the torch from Kanto's ashes. You return to a changed Johto, where Silver's rage mirrors young Blue's fire. But now Ho-Oh's rainbow promise arches over Tin Tower. Lugia dives through Whirl Island's depths, and the Kimono girls dance legends into flesh. Jasmine speaks of distant shores, her words brushing against Sinnoh's timeline in whispers that scholars still debate. Does her tale place Diamond and Pearl precisely here? Overlapping Yoto's growth spurt, conflicting echoes from Cynthia herself muddy the waters. But the pull is undeniable. Generations brushing shoulders like old allies reuniting. Unova rises a few years hence, its towering ideals clashing in N's fractured dreams. Reshiram flames truth, Zekrom thunders ideals, their dragons split birthing a philosophy that questions every prior legend. Groudon's earth-shaping fury, Kyogre's oceanic wrath, the creation trio's cosmic weave. Kalos follows, A's ancient grudge resurfacing in a war that nearly resets the world, his eyes forever scarred by Galar's darkest day. Alola's islands pulse with ultra beasts bleeding through wormholes, Nebby's evolution to Solgaleo or Luna La, forging bonds as personal as the stars they chase. These aren't separate tales drifting in void. They're bound by anchor points that snap the chaos into focus. Aze's gaze bridges Galar's apocalypse to Kalos's crisis, a living thread across millennia. The ruins, Alf, Tanabe, Solucian, dot the globe like stars in constellation, built in unison 1500 years past. Their unowned guardians hinting at scripts that spell Sinnoh's creation myths. Farfetch's faded numbers remind Johto of overhunting's cost, a caution whispered in every generation's ecology. Hisui's Survey Corps pioneers the Pokédex ethos that Red perfects in Kanto, while Hoenn's Devon Corp echoes Sylph Co, its tech from the same breath. Remakes fold eras together. Fire Red's Kanto syncing not just with Ruby's Hoenn, but with the hardware leaps that redefine how we relive them. Feel that revelations settle. No generation truly stands isolated. Kanto's electric triumph pulses alongside Hoenn's primal roar. Johto's rebirth 3 years later, tugging at Sinnoh's ancient roots. Unova's ideals refracting every prior philosophy. 3,000 years condense into one unbroken string. The darkest day's storm seeding eternal Dynamax echoes in Galar stadiums. AZ's witness fueling Kalos's reset. Ruins rising as silent sentinels. Zui's peril birthing partnerships that champion Leon upholds in unbeatable solitude. Each anchor pulls tighter. Legendaries as world builders, from Ho-Oh's balance to Solgaleo's transformation. Themes evolving yet interlocking like gears in Arceus's grand design. As these dots connect across the ages, revealing a timeline far grander than any single journey, we step toward Chapter 28, the eternal cycle of discovery. What endless loop turns history into prophecy, finding even the champion's legacies in repetition? Drift deeper and find out. Those anchor points we've just pieced together across 3,000 years don't mark the end of the story. They ignite an endless loop of revelation, where every new region peels back another veil on the Pokémon world's vast tapestry. Consider how Kanto and Hoenn unfolded in perfect parallel, their champions rising and crises clashing at the exact same moment in time. Even as players chased Pikachu, Viridian Forest, or Rayquaza, the schisms of Setopolis years apart in our world. Red's triumph over Team Rocket echoed silently, alongside May's desperate stand against Team Aqua and Magma. Two sagas brushing shoulders without ever acknowledging the other, leaving us to wonder what ripples travelled between those distant shores. This parallel layering is no accident. It's the blueprint for expansion. Each fresh region doesn't just plop down a new map. It threads invisible filaments back through the chronology, binding the present to forgotten epochs. Johto arrived 3 years after Kanto's dust settled. Gold and Silver's heroes wandering past the very gyms their predecessors had conquered, now faded monuments to a bygone league. Yet Sinnoh's Diamond and Pearl hover in that same hazy interim. Jasmine's subtle nod to distant seas hinting at voyages that might have crossed paths with Johto's radio tower siege, while Cynthia whispers of ancient freezes that could predate even those events. Unova follows in the years after, its black and white ideals reshaping the ruins left by prior ambitions, each step forward excavating deeper strata of history. And beneath it all, those primordial scars pulse with life. 3,000 years before the Galar we know, the darkest day swallowed the land in an eternal black storm, Eternatus swollen to its Eternamax form, unleashing Dynamax frenzy across every corner of the realm. Zacian and Zamazenta, blades gleaming like twin dawns, charged alongside two nameless youths who sealed the chaos, their crowns forged from the aftermath. Azid himself, that wandering king from Kalos, bore witness to it all, his immortality a bridge carrying that cataclysm's shadow into the War of the Kalos Kings, 1,500 years before Generation 1. Ruins of Alf etched with unowned script, Tanobi's watery chambers, Salacian's nurturing stones, all raised in that same ancient breath, while Farfetch flocks dwindled under human spears, a quiet elegy for harmony lost. Why the Pokémon world continues to expand its lore with every new region becomes clear in this rhythm. It's a living archive, each landmass a key unlocking prior vaults. Generation 1 handed us a bugnet and a starter, a linear hike from Pallet Town to Indigo Plateau, badges as milestones in a child's rite. But Yoto deepened the waters, Ho-Oh's rainbow promise arcing over a world scarred by human folly. Lugia's roar demanding balance from the depths. Hoenn shattered the land itself. Groudon and Kyogre primordial titans clashing in primal fury, their weather gods indifferent to the puny teams vying for control. Ruby flipping the script on Sapphire, allies becoming foes in a dance of ecological terror. Sinnoh thrust us into Genesis, Arceus the architect, Dialga ticking time's relentless march, Palkia folding space like origami, Giratina exiled to distortion's edge. Unova dared us to question truth itself. Reshiram and Zekrom twin dragons embodying ideals that burn away illusion. Alola wove mythology into companionship. Nebby evolving from cosmic puffball to Lunala's radiant form. Lily's flight mirroring our own ascent through ultraspace. Every legend stands as world builder. Elemental guardians, planetary behemoths, creation's triad, philosophy's fire, transformation's bridge. Each one a thematic anchor pulling disparate eras into alignment. Remakes only thicken the weave. Fire Red and Leaf Green recast in Kanto through Hoenn's lens of simultaneity. Heart Gold and Soul Silver letting Johto's ghosts haunt Gold's fresh tread. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire replaying Hoenn's primeful strife with prismatic enhancements. These aren't mere retreads. They refract the timeline through new hardware's prism. Events echoing across eras. Protagonists' shadows lingering in cameos. Red silent on Mount. Silver, Cynthia delving ancient lore. Stephen unearthing meteorites that whisper of Hisui's feral dawn. Yet for all this mapping, the enduring mystery of the hidden connections that fans are still uncovering keeps the cycle spinning. Devotees pore over AZ's fragmented memories, linking Galar's apocalypse to Kalas's ultimate weapon. Trace the tree roots cradling Laver City back 1500 years to whisper of growth amid ruin. Jasmine's seasick murmurs in Olivine clash with Cynthia's Sinnoh chronicles, suggesting Generation 4's leagues. Overlapped Johto's radio signals in ways no dialogue spells out. Hisui's brutal wilds, tamed only after Arceus' descent, cast long shadows over every modern partnership, while Dynamax craters in Galar hint at energies rippling forward to Mega Evolution's unstable bursts. Fans unearth these threads in data mines and forums, piecing how breeding's introduction in Johto echoed far-fetched overhunting's cautionary tale, or how Unova's ambitions mirrored the king's hubris 3 millennia prior. The timeline bends but never breaks. Remakes classified by release date rather than origin, layering narratives like geological strata, each dig revealing fossils of intent, philosophies buried in code. In the end, picture that first Viridian shrub rustling with a caterpie, a simple bug-catching hobby that bloomed into this infinite abyss. Cataclysms quenched by wolf kings, Time Lords birthing reality, dragons debating existence itself. What began as net swings in tall grass now cradles universes within universes. A depth that defies closure, inviting endless pursuit. The cycle turns eternal because the discoveries never cease. Each region a new dawn, each connection a spark in the dark, pulling us deeper into the mystery that started it all. What did you think of this journey? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this changed your perspective or taught you something new, consider subscribing for more mind-expanding content. And if you know someone who would find this as fascinating as you did, share it with them. These are the kind of conversations that matter.